We're going to call the May 1st Drainage Board meeting to order. Mrs. Fontenot is going to lead us in prayer, followed by the pledge.
Father, tonight we come and we do give you honor and glory and praise. And Father, we know we've been asking for rain, and we got it. Now we're asking for you to give us creative ideas in solving the problems that exist. The one thing about problems, Lord, is that we can identify them now, and we just ask for the best means that we can to see to it that they're taken care of. We ask for your protection once again for the soldiers abroad and all those who serve to keep us safe. We ask that the war in Iraq end quickly and that our soldiers be brought home. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record indicate that Mr. Savoy is here in shorthand.
That's all right. I'm glad he did. I thought we were in mine, too. Just have to let it be known that Mr. Shake Snyder and Mr. Byard are absent at this time. Public comment section. Anyone wanting to speak on an item, I have the sign-up sheet. If anybody hadn't signed it, can get on the agenda for an agenda item, so please sign in. Be allowed a 3-minute speech on that. We're going to move on to number 4, acceptance of minutes of April 3rd, 2006.
I move to accept the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion by Mr. McComb. Second by Mr. Savoy. Any questions? Any objections? So moved. We'll move on to number 5, Mr. Parish President's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just going to mention a couple things. Most of the report is going to be given by Mr. Rue and Mr. Godan and the team that's been working on these drainage issues. Obviously, as Ms. Fontenot mentioned in her prayer, I guess some of us had been praying for rain. And so a week ago, we was in a drought. And I know in my community in Burnside, just my personal rain gauge, we've had 11 inches of rain since Wednesday morning and 6.5 inches Saturday night. Obviously, it caused some flash flooding parts of our parish, including my street, where I live now, Saturday night. And we had, when I left the pumping station, I guess I was out between about 10 and 2 o'clock, different parts of the parish. We had all the pumps running except number 3. And then I understand they turned it on later. And you're going to get some information from the public works people on different areas of the parish that we have specific problems and specific subdivisions that we're trying to address. Now, we have a meeting later this week with Michael Sanji and some key people in administration will be brought into that to discuss the drainage ordinance that have been worked on for many, many months now and how that impacts new subdivision development, et cetera. And we may very well be asking the Drainage Board to do some things shortly to help us in this regard. Additionally, some of our conversations with some members of the Louisiana Recovery Authority or some information coming back from them doesn't look real promising right now as far as parishes that have been indirectly impacted by Hurricane Katrina and Rita. As far as getting infrastructure money, it looks like the commitment from the governor and the administration to state level, and hopefully we can persuade some differences. We have a meeting at the Capitol this coming Wednesday morning with our legislative delegation. But as it looks right now, parishes like ourselves who have had an influx of people and development since these storms, looks like most of the money coming down through special federal appropriations is going to be used for housing in those areas directly devastated. And so we've got to consider all this as this is finalized to see what we're going to do and how we react to that in our parish with the various things that are happening. So we'll have a little more detailed report for you hopefully Thursday night in our council meeting on some of our findings this week. At the present time, Mr. Chairman, if we could move right into the Department of Public Works report, we get some specific information on certain areas.
Okay, we're going to move on to number 6, Department of Public Works report. Mr. Bill Root.
Yes, sir. First off, we're going to hand out, I think you have your work orders per your district, and at your leisure, review it. If you have any questions, please contact Department of Public Works, and we'll be glad to get with you on those inquiries. The other thing we're handing out is a report on Road and Weed Department, the mileage and footage report of the amount of roads that was cut, drainage ditches and roads cut, and also cross ditches cut through the last, up through April. So this gives you some kind of indication of how much our weed control crews are doing. The other page gives you some information as to the grass cutting and spraying of the state highways, which we have a contract with TD on. And it shows the dates that certain these state highways has been cut. They're just about through the first rotation, getting ready to get started on second rotation. We are in the process of compiling a report, something that is readable, something that you can use to indicate what parish roads and what parish cross ditches, what's happening on those from month to month. But they are so many that we just don't have the report condensed down where it's of any use to you. Again, we talk about our parish roads. There's hundreds of them, and we have a list that we take in order, split up in 2 sections of the parish and Donaldsonville. And again, we trying to put together a report that you can use, and not just a lot of information out there. And we should have that by the next meeting. So again, at your leisure, look at it. If you have some questions about some of the roads being cut or not cut, please give our department a call tomorrow, and we'll be happy to go through the process and look at some specifics with you. Of course, we had, since the last meeting, we had 2 what we term flash floods. And this is distinguished from what we had with Rita and with other heavy rainfall events, in that we had a substantial amount of rainfall in a very short period of time, unexpected. Again, this is a flash flood situation, and it's important that everybody understand that. Saturday night at around 8:30, we started receiving phone calls, the man on call. Within an hour, we had a full complement of people manning or on their way to man the McElroy pumping station, the Sorrento pumping station, and also man the vehicles to get out and start doing some road sign barricades. And you'll hear a lot of stories, but I'm telling you, we were out there, I was out there, Parish President was out there, and several members of the council was out there, and we did have our people out moving. And again, within an hour, we were mobilized. The McElroy pumping station started up around 10 o'clock, start pumping down. The main reason we started, we did not have a high elevation there, but considering the wind direction and the possibility of a southeast wind blowing in and holding that water up, we decided the best thing to do is to start the pumps and continue the pumping, to make sure that the level at the pumping station stayed down so we have a place for this water to go from the northern part of the parish. So again, we started the pumps at around 10 o'clock in McElroy and about 10:15 in Sorrento. All 4 pumps are turned on around 10 o'clock. At about 1 o'clock, we turned the number 5 pump on because we started getting an increase in elevation. All 5 pumps ran to about 9 o'clock Sunday morning, cut back to 4 pumps. 11 o'clock, cut back to 3 pumps. Again, that's all on Sunday. About 1:15, we went back, Sunday afternoon, went back to 4 pumps. We went back and forth from 4 to 3 for up until about 2 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning. Went back to 2 pumps at 9 o'clock Monday morning, and then 1 pump at 12 o'clock today. And then we turned everything off toward the end of the day today. So this is basically our activities of that had to do with the actual pumping station. We had a lot of problems, but for us structural flooding, we have only identified 3 or 4 places. Now again, this is what we identified. People called into us, or we went out to them. There may be more. If you know of more specific locations that people have contacted you on, please give it to us so we can cross-reference it with ours. We had a lot of near misses, a lot of locations that is within a few inches of coming in but did not come in. But overall, we escaped a much more serious situation in that if the rain stopped when it did, it was a flash flood. I think, and CJ has more information, I'll turn it over to him in just a second, on the amount of rainfall at different parts of the parish. But when you get 6 inches of rain, 6.5 inches of rain in 3 hours, and in some places we're having 2 inches or more within a half an hour, that is an enormous amount of rain. And I'm not an engineer, can sit here and tell you what it equates to, but it's much more than a 10-year event when you talk about that much volume of water in one location. What we did find out was that subdivisions that's built on a 10-year drainage plan to handle a 10-year event cannot handle a flash flood of this type. And we saw it earlier this week when we had the other rain event. We saw it Saturday night. This is something that we're looking at, maybe at changing, some of the regulations for subdivisions. But again, you have to look at the amount of rainfall falling in an amount of time and equate that to an actual event. A 10-year event is 7.5, 7.8 inches in 24 hours. 6 inches in 3 hours is a lot of difference, a major difference. And what that actually equates to, I don't have that information, but it's a lot more than a 10-year event. The other thing I handed out, you'll see a priority list of work orders completed since Hurricane Rita and Katrina. What I want to emphasize is that even though we had some problems, we had some near misses, if you look on this list, this is priority 1 work orders that from the Rita event we had problems with, either actual flooding of structures or near flooding or serious problems. If you look down here, these are all work at the top about 4. You'll see the stage of completion, 95, 60, 40, and 70%. The other one has been completed. And what we believe is that because the Drainage Board agreed to go to a priority system where we handle flooding situations that was noticed by Hurricane Rita, and use that as our number 1 priority is to do something about those, that we had a lot less problems than what we would have had if we would not have completed these projects since Hurricane Rita. So even though we do still have problems, because of the action of the board and the work of DPW, we had a lot less than what we would have had prior to doing this work. And again, we noticed a lot of this during Hurricane Rita, the problem we had. And we're continuing to do this. We are continuing to do priority 1 projects, which is drainage, flooding projects first. And then we're moving on to the other priority 2, 3, and 4. Again, look at the list and be glad to talk about any one of them now or at a later date. This is just the ones completed. We are still working on priority 1 projects. And since the rain event of last week and of Saturday, this priority 1 list has expanded due to that. And it's going to continue to expand. And as they expand, we're going to reprioritize this. In fact, we're going to reprioritize the priority ones to see which ones are the most serious that we need to get to immediately, and the ones that can wait a few more weeks or a month or so to get to. So that is the activities of Department of Public Works. Again, I applaud my people. They are doing some real fine work out there. They're getting some things done, and they're getting it done in a timely manner. We have, again, a lot more to do, and we are coming up with new ideas every day. Even today, we looked at some things with what happened Saturday night, and we have a direction to go on a few of those problem situations already. So again, it's an evolving type of work that we do, and we're moving forward. And basically, we're here to. First off, CJ, you have some information on some actual rain totals.
Thank you, Bill. I was trying to get a map prepared in time for the meeting, but I obviously didn't make it. And I won't bore you with a bunch of statistics, but I will say I looked at our gauges, at our real-time gauges at 8 different sites. We have rain gauges attached to the real-time flood stage gauges. And I went back and I looked at those, and in general, it looks like we had somewhere roughly about, say, 4 inches for the total amount of the rain. But like Bill said, the thing that's impressive, if you look at some of the shorter, condensed time periods, here's one on, and I'll just give you a couple of them to show you. Bayou Manchac at Alligator Bayou had 2.5 inches in 1 hour. It was very common to have over an inch in 30 minutes there. Muddy Creek at Manchac Acres had right at an inch of rain in 15 minutes. So I just want to sort of reiterate what Bill said. We didn't have, it wasn't a huge amount overall when you talk about 4 inches, but it came down so quickly that's why it gave us problems. I will make copies of this map, and if you want some later on, I'll give them to anybody that needs them by email or any other method. Thank you.
Make sure you get them to the board. Before we move on, I have some individuals that want to speak, and probably it's over this last couple of rains, so I'm going to let them get 3 minutes. I'm going to start off with Miss Liz Abedy.
I just moved here in November from St. Bernard Parish. I had 14 foot of water in my house. I was not happy Thursday morning to wake up and find that half of my property on Duval Road was covered with water. We bought 5 acres at the end of Duval off of Joseph Ario. I also know that they're planning to build a rather large subdivision on the other side of Parker Bayou, which is the property line of my property. I have also learned that Parker Bayou in that area has not been dredged or cleaned out in over 50 years because Mr. Duval wouldn't allow anyone to come onto the property to take and clean out the bayou. We need it cleaned out. I cannot use my acreage properly if I have to worry about flooding whenever we have a heavy rain. If you need to get on my property, come on my property and clean out my bayou. I tracked the water from Joseph Ario down Duval. It came from every direction, north, south, east, and west. Yesterday morning, my husband and I went off. We're going up Merritt Evans. There are pockets of water that were just still. Did not look like there was any pump activity to draw it out. There was still yards very flooded with water. One house had the water almost up to the top of the steps. My concern is if we continue to have these rain events that we had Thursday and Saturday evening, am I going to have to worry every time it rains that my property is going to flood and that I'm not going to have the proper use of my property? I have also been told by Mr. Alan Allred that it could be up to almost a year before you all could get to the dredging of my canal. I am here to please ask you to try to observe the situation, look into it, and please, I don't want another flood. I can't handle it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Bill,
can
you
we
wanna
respond
start?
as we
Sure,
go?
Sure, that would be good.
This is a problem area, and again, we've been going through this because lately the main problem or the main complaints has been coming in from Stafford Heights and also from Abbey James Road. This is all the same ditch that comes down, it ties in. It just about where her property is actually the Burack ditch, what we call the Burack ditch, that goes all the way up to Abbey James and through there. And you also have a major lateral coming off that's going across Dutton Road, which is a lateral off of Henderson Bayou. And you also have Henderson Bayou Main coming in. They all come together at just about that one point. Then just south of that, or east of it, I would say, then you're going into the Duval property where they plan on building Keystone. What we're waiting on now, and in fact we're going back and reviewing the drainage plans of Keystone to look and see what size design they're going to do with Henderson Bayou. We know that they're going to make it substantially bigger going through the property. In doing that work, you're immediately going to help out everybody to the east or west of that location. Everything that comes in, Burack ditch, this lateral, and the upper portion of Henderson Bayou can be helped because at this location is where you got the major buildup. After you get past the Duval property where Keystone is going to be, you get close to the Henderson Bayou Road and you get past Henderson Bayou Road, the amount of water is greatly reduced. Everything was mostly in the bank at 11:30 Saturday night when you get past Henderson Bayou Road. It's just north of that where you have the convergence of these main laterals coming together. And again, we can go in there and do work on Henderson Bayou, but the development is coming up and we're going to review and mandate that they put a big enough structure there or design of Henderson Bayou to accommodate what we need done to get the flow going through it. So we are waiting right now on Keystone to get started. They're having some going back and forth with the Planning Commission, I think, and other entities, but that's our plan, and that's what we're waiting for right now.
Thank you, Bill. We're going to move on to Melissa Shawn, Muddy Creek flooding.
Melissa Shaw, SHAW. I want to clarify that this isn't about the recent rain, and the flash flooding that he's referring to is nothing more than heavy rain in South Louisiana. And it's not just particular areas, it's the whole parish, but we're talking about my backyard, so what he referred to as being in the banks where she's located, it was, because it was in my backyard. I have pictures if you'd like to see.
Excuse me. Would you please state where you live, Melissa?
I live off of Highway 930, 16399, in the S curve. It is between Henry Road and Parker Road. I'm directly across the street from the current development in Mr. Berger's District 11, Helena Place, that's supposedly going to get approved. Essentially what I want to discuss is surface area. All these developments that keep going up are encompassing surface area that would otherwise absorb the rainfall. Every house, every driveway, every piece of paved concrete is no longer able to be saturated for the water to go someplace. So it's in my backyard, and essentially there's no infrastructure for drainage. I have horses that are 2 foot deep in water, and I have horses that are only 2.5 foot tall. Also, the parish is just reactive. There's no proactive approach to anything. There's no road infrastructure, there's no drainage infrastructure, and there are certainly not schools for all these developments that just keep getting by. And I basically want to know what you're going to do about the drainage, in particular Muddy Creek in my backyard. It did not flood in 1990. Hurricane Andrew was the highest the water was before Rita and recently. And that was some severe water, and it was nowhere near what Rita or Sunday night's little rain was. I have pictures for you if you'd like to see them now, or you have somebody who can project them. My backyard is completely underwater.
Bill, on the Muddy Creek Basin, where we redirected the funding for, where are we at with that study and the engineering on it?
Well, again, on Muddy Creek, we redirected, but we're not doing anything with the drainage study on Muddy Creek. What we're looking at is we're reapplying and trying to get the grant money to raise Muddy Creek Bridge. Mm-hmm. And that's our activities on that. We really had no complaints other than tonight of any problems along Muddy Creek because of the last flood. Everything is further down from that. Now, Muddy Creek is a different water basin than what we were talking about a minute ago with Henderson Bayou.
Correct.
Complete different watershed. It goes into the man shack. It's a high bank canal, and again, we had very little problem with it. And with all due respect, we did have a flash flood, and a flash flood is not a normal event in Louisiana. If it did, we were all in serious problem. The fact of the matter is, in most cases, we get 1 or 2 inches of rain within 3 or 4 hours, 5 hours, and that is an event of a fairly strong rain event. You get into what we had Saturday night and somewhat what we had last week, and that is a flash flood situation. And you get into a flash flood situation, you will have a problem. Baton Rouge had a problem. We had a problem. Every parish in this state that had this storm come through had a problem, because you're not developing your subdivisions to handle a flash flood. You handle a 10-year event, which is less rain per hour, per unit of time, and it gives time for that to run off. Now, if the parish wanted to design all your subdivisions and all your other your infrastructure to handle this type of event, you can do it. But it's going to take a number of years, and you're going to have to change your zone, your planning codes, subdivision codes, and you're going to tell your subdivision developers you develop on a 50-year event, not a 10-year event. And we'll start putting culverts in on a 50-year event and not a 10-year event. And then over time, all our infrastructure will be in place to handle a flash flood of this type. And we're more than happy to do that by direction of the parish council. But that is the facts in the case.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Chairman.
Mr. Helensbeck.
Bill, I want to remind you, after Hurricane Rita, we had several residents show up at DPW, very concerned, that live in the Charleston area. Charleston subdivision is on the opposite bank of Ms. Melissa Shaw. And those people are very concerned about Muddy Creek, and they had very high water marks on some of their properties. Excuse me, very close to flooding, and I don't remember now the exact date, but I want to say that was it was in November or December that they showed up, and there were several of them there that night asking for help. And if you'll remember, I met with you and Mr. Savoy and Mr. Nancy Lambert, Chief Administrative Officer Don Hazell. I don't remember who else was there. Excuse me, thank you, Martin McConnell. Councilman McConnell was in this meeting. And one of the things we agreed to was that we were going to address Muddy Creek, the fact that it needs cleaning out. In fact, I came away from the meeting with the understanding we were going to dredge, and sometime after that, shortly after that, I got a correction in an email that you said, no, we're not going to dredge, we're going to clean out. Now, to give you proper credit for what was said, you did say that it wasn't going to be right away, that you were starting on Black Bayou, which DPW has done. And I appreciate what DPW is doing with the Long Reach Traco. However, I went by there today and I didn't see it out there, cleaning out Black Bayou from Black Bayou Road to Germany Road. That was the next section that was supposed to have been dredged that was canceled. Now, when we shifted priorities in June of 2005, and we shifted $13 million in spending to go pursue building a levee in Santamar that we don't have a permit for from the Corps. The discussion was, well, DPW is going to clean these bayous out. We're going to do this. We're going to do this dredging in house. Well, we're not dredging. We're doing maintenance work. And now, in some 9 months since that decision, I think we've cleaned out. I guesstimated it to be about 200 yards of one bayou. So I guess, I don't know, maybe around 2010, the Traco will be up at Rhonda Place where Black Bayou begins. Now, let me go back to this shift in these priorities. I did several presentations beginning in December about our funding priorities, and where we're going with our money and what we're going to accomplish with our money. And by the way, there's an issue. I don't know if it's related to me or not. It's on the agenda about time limitations on presentations. But a question I have is back to that levy business. You know, in other parishes, the way they handle these projects is they go out and they do a feasibility study and they gather the facts, the details of what your drainage board wants to do. Turn in your feasibility study to the Corps and ask the Corps to evaluate it and either give us the hi-ho or tell us no. And of course, if they do approve it, you know, the parish generally asks for Corps participation to help out with the project. Here in Ascension Parish, we go right into design of a levee that we don't have a permit to build. And I guess my question is, from the 2006 East Ascension construction recap out of the drainage fund budget for 2006, we got budgeted $1,275,000. How much of that money have we already spent toward 30% design? And I guess the question is, why are we doing it unlike other parishes that wait for a permit from the Corps first? And yes, I am quite aggravated that we've got people out there that are flooding or near flooding while we continue to build and we're not dredging. So can you tell me where we stand on that levee design that we don't, and does it look like we're going to get a permit anytime soon for this?
Actually, Councilman, the process is before you can get a permit, before you get a permit, you have to have some type of idea, some type of design to present to the Corps so you can tell them what your intentions. You have to put it on paper, and we have to do that even for ditches sometimes. Actually draw the ditch and give them the design cut, how big are we going with it, and everything else.
The feasibility study wouldn't
the part of the study, part of this on both Henderson Bayou and the Law Ridge levee, as directed by the board, was to go to a 30% design of the levee and also do the analysis model of Henderson Bayou. Both of them, especially the levee, part of that task order is to at least get the okay or the possibility from the Corps of obtaining a permit. I mean, that's part of the work task to CDM is to put together a typical design, go to the Corps, see the possibility and what the problem is getting permits. If you get a preliminary okay from them, then you go back and do the rest of the 30% design. This is all included in there. You cannot just go to the Corps of Engineers and say, look, I'm thinking about doing this job. You think I can get a permit? Can you give me a permit on it?
Yeah, well, no, and that's not how it was stated.
But this is part of
Right.
the CDM task is to do all of that.
Right, and that's not how it was stated. Now, as I understand it, in other parishes, what they do is they do a feasibility study, gather the facts and the details of what it is they're trying to do, then send it into the Corps and request a meeting, sit down and discuss it. That you don't immediately go to 30% design in other parishes because it's quite expensive to do that, and there's no guarantee the Corps is going to issue a permit. I mean, this is a levee that was attempted to be built back in the 80s, and we actually had people back in the 80s saying if the levee is built, we're going to dynamite the levee. And we had people back in the 80s that would not sell their property where the levee needs to be built. So that means, I'm assuming nothing has really changed. Well, so if we are going to go forward with this levee, we're going to have to expropriate the property. And then once we expropriate the property, because it is wetlands, hardwoods, the cost of mitigating hardwood wetlands is $45,000 an acre. So everything to me it just points to the fact I just don't believe we'll ever get a Corps permit because the Corps issues that permit based on the cost-benefit analysis. And I just think the cost will be so great that there will not be enough benefit for them to move forward and for that to be a good project. But meanwhile, Meanwhile, we've canceled our dredging program when we got people that are flooding or near flooding. Like I say, I had several calls from people in my district that water never been up to the brick line before. But guess what? These people, they are getting very nervous and very upset at what's going on. So.
Yeah, just go back, and the other point you had made, and you wanted to know something about the Black Bayou and the fact that we're not digging there. Fact of the matter on that, we're not allowed to put up any kind of berm along the Black Bayou because we're doing maintenance cleaning. Part of maintenance cleaning operations is not to put a berm or any kind of dirt along the side, build it up any at all.
Right.
What we decided to do is to take it in sections. We do a section, we'll dig, then we remove the dirt. We'll dig another section, get the dirt moved. And that's how we're working. Right now, we're almost completed. If you've been out there today, you notice there's only one little pile left that we're moving. We just got that one little bit to go, and then the trackhoe is going back out there, dig another section, and then we're going to remove the dirt. We do not want to leave these berms along the side of the road, of the bayou.
And had we dredged, instead of doing maintenance cleanout work, had we dredged, we would have deepened and widened the bayous, which would greatly increase the capacity and the flow. Okay. Do you have any idea how much we have spent or how much we will spend on this 30% design study? Because that's what it is, study and design, or design.
We brought that to the board.
We've never been given a dollar amount. I see what's budgeted, $1,275,000.
I don't have that information in front of me. I can give it to you tomorrow morning. We do have that information. The task order to CDN with the cost, but I don't have it in front of me.
The last thing I want to say, and the reason I have continued to stress and push for this dredging through Gonzales and the bulkheading that needs to be done, I think the question was asked, maybe I didn't do a very good job of explaining it, is in order for us one day to dredge north of Gonzales, and as Grand Goudin, you have to dredge through Gonzales. If you do not dredge Gonzales and you skip Gonzales and you begin dredging north, it will put too much water and you'll flood the people of Gonzales. And of course, the reason for the bulkheads are to protect what you've dredged and established so that it doesn't erode out over time. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to Jennifer Jones, Silverstone. Clerk.
I live in Silverstone. I flooded with Rita and had a couple of near misses. On Wednesday, this is what my house looked like. I'll pass these around.
You can pass it. Pass it. That's not going to be clear. It's not.
Am I doing it right? After Wednesday, someone told me it was an 11-year flood. Rita was a 100-year flood. If there's a flood for every year, I'm in trouble. We've been living in this house for 6 years. We did have help about 2 years after we moved in, and it seemed to help a lot. But whatever has happened with the developments, which from what I understand, there's 2 brand new developments coming up in my area, I don't know what's going to happen. I know that my subdivision does not drain correctly. The water passes up culverts, comes straight to my house. My neighbor 2 doors down has a culvert that water does not go into. It flows from his house down my driveway. That doesn't make any sense. And I can't seem to get, I'm getting help, but it's like a Band-Aid for, cancer. You don't give someone who has a really big problem a Band-Aid. I mean, I need something done that I do not have to not be able to sleep at night because I know that this is what's going to happen. Now, if I do sandbag, it will slow the problem down, which I ended up doing which I ended up doing, of course, because I knew it was coming. I couldn't get sandbags, so I went and bought topsoil. Saturday night, this is the street level at the street, which it ended up, you can see it rose really quickly. It overtook all the culverts. Now, I do this in front of my driveway to divert the water to the culvert because it would not go there otherwise. But soon the culverts get very overburdened, which is this picture here. And that's basically under about a foot of water. This is in about 30 minutes. This doesn't happen just for a flash flood. This happens when it rains. Now, not a sprinkle, but when a normal rain. I have been through this on more than 10 occasions. Now, before Rita, it was about 2 years ago. With Rita, I did flood. It didn't flood a lot. I only got a half an inch, but I learned that it doesn't really matter how much water you get in your house. You still have to take out your floors. You still have to take out drywall, the whole 9 yards. I mean, it's a big pain. I don't understand how a house can pass whatever inspections that they're put through and have this type of a drainage issue. I don't understand that. I don't know one inspector would inspect this house, which I am the lowest apparent, well, obviously in my subdivision, but how this house would pass an inspection with I can't even deal with an everyday rain. And I want to know what is going to be done to help me. I don't have a problem that affects a lot of people. It affects me. But to me, it's a very big problem.
Bill, are y'all aware of this particular project area?
They came out today.
I can answer that. I met with her today. I wasn't aware of the problem until today. Basically, the water runs from the street across her yard to the Plessis Road, and it's following the natural lay of the land. And once it gets to the Plessis roadside ditch, the culverts are very undersized. There's one that's crushed. So the bottom line to all this is we're planning a survey. We're going to start tomorrow. We're going to survey up to her house, and we're going to do some work, some culvert work and some ditch work to give her some relief. I can't say any more than that until the survey's in so we can see the relative elevations of our house slab and the ditch and what have you. But basically, it's, as soon as you see it, you can see that the culverts, the roadside culverts are definitely one thing causing some major problems. But we are going to start the survey tomorrow.
Thank you.
Now, can I say one thing?
Sure.
If you can notice tonight, and I think most of the complaints we have had, you're going to find that most of this is coming from developments. The fact of the matter is, and we don't like it at DPW no more than anybody else, the fact of the matter is DPW is coming at the end of all of these developments or several years down the road after these things are accepted into the parish, and problems evolve, and DPW is given the task of solving major problems. When you have to go back and redo an infrastructure within a subdivision, it's a major problem. And we're having to go back and solve some of these problems. So, we feel bad about it as much as everybody else. There's some things that we just can't get to because of that.
Bill, one thing, Bill, what would it take for us to get in the front end of this project for its drainage, DPW? Would it take a motion from this board to have somebody at the planning and zoning committee meetings to address drainage, for as...
No.
Where you said that y'all coming in at the end.
The thing is,
like
and this is something that the parish president and I have talked a little bit about, but the fact of the matter is, unless DPW is the last man to talk or to give the okay on a plat, and given the authority to say that the thing is shut down unless the decision of DPW is met, no matter what it is, up until that time, you're going to have problems.
So
and part of the problem is the fact you get into a situation that right at the end where you can see the subdivision developer did all the requirements as per the subdivision codes. But we come in there, and because of unique situations, we say, no, you got to do more here, more there, and then we get into a little battle over it. Again, when it comes to DPW, the way I would like it, there's no negotiation. You either do what we say or there's no development. and we should be at the end of the process for final review before it goes to commission. Once it goes to commission, everything should be in place, or it never gets to the commission.
So do we have that in the works as far as in the new ordinance, where do we have to amend this ordinance to put it in there? Because, you know.
There are several things, and again, it's some things that I'll have to talk over more with you, as chairman of the Drainage Board, and also the parish president, for us, DPW's ideas of what we see needs to be done, what we see need to be implemented in the drainage ordinance that's not there now, and in the process itself. And that's going all the way back into the the inspections of the subdivision and actually raising the standards of infrastructure within the subdivision. And to give you one indication, what we're thinking about is that we need to implement a safety factor. If the drainage reports and says that an 18-inch covered would take care of this drainage flow, we take it to a 24. We take it to a 20-inch. You go one up on everything, just as a safety factor, because numbers can be misleading. But again, we got a lot of ideas that we are going to take to the Strategic Planning Committee and to the Planning Commission itself to try to get implemented.
Let's bring it as quick as possible.
Make sure that's on the agenda next meeting, Kent.
Mr. Shake's not.
Yes, that's the first thing. Please call Miss Suzanne and ask her to put it on the agenda in the next meeting. And I'm confused because, as far as I know, we've been asking for a very long time for DPW to get involved. And as it is right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we have a pre-app meeting, and DPW is represented at the pre-app meeting, and they have to fulfill all requirements for DPW as it is right now. Am I correct?
Yes, you are in a way. What we've been doing, and my instructions, or at least the engineers was doing, was looking at pretty much the same thing as Mr. Sanji is. You're looking at what can be done within the limits of the code. What we don't want to be unfair to the developer in that if the code says you can, this is, and I'll give you a good example of zero impact. Okay, as long as the developer meets a zero impact, that meets the code, and it would really be unfair to say, well, in this particular situation, because of the surrounding area, we actually need a negative impact. We need to hold back the water 15% or something like that.
But that's one of the problems we've been having. We've been begging for this for years, is that we wanted, and planning and zoning, when I was on the planning and zoning, I know Mike was there now, and everybody that's on the planning commission and things, we've been asking DPW for suggestions on downstream drainage. And what is the effect this is going to have, or if there's a problem with downstream drainage, what does DPW have in plans in the future to improve this drainage? And I don't know, I'm not familiar with this lady's problem, but if there was a development there and they had problems downstream and DPW was planning on fixing it in 6 months, or if they found out that they had a development there, and then they could fix that area in 6 months. But we've been asking for that for a long period of time, and all we need is the word is what do we have to implement to get this going. If you give us the word exactly how to go about doing it, we would have done this a long time ago.
Now,
so we're ready to move.
Right, and what we need to do is some clarification. Again, we was trying to work within the rules and looking at the, what was done in other developments, and we say, okay, well, we'll go along with that because that's a standard.
No, but the general health, safety, and welfare of the people is part of the reason for approving a subdivision. And if DPW determines that we have some drainage problems down the line that doesn't show in the drainage study for the subdivision, but everybody knows it's there, or the workers know it's there, or whatever, something that everyone else is not familiar with, it might be a half a mile further down. It might be upstream. But that needs to be known, and that enables the planning and zoning commission members to make better decisions, and they can use that and go back to the developer and say, look, until this downstream drainage gets improved, and you may partner with DPW to improve it, but until then, your plat is not going to be approved. I mean, I know for a fact they've been looking for this for a long period of time, so we're eager at that suggestion to do that at any point in time. So if we get any type of direction as what we need to do to implement it, but I thought as of right now, that's done. All we have to do is get
a sheet of paper from DPW that says something to that effect, that there's drainage problems, and the commissioners can act on that right now.
And you're absolutely right. And we are going to be more involved. I had meetings with my engineers, and actually the determination is now, until further notice, that my engineer will review and bring all that information to me, and we're going to sit down together on every plat, and we're going to look at the problems, and we're going to make some not suggestion, demands. And it may not fit into what is standard. It may not fit into what the other subdivision is doing, and you may have some thoughts or some comments from developers saying, well, you didn't make the one next door do this. And the attitude of DPW is, well, that's tough. This is what we're recommending for y'all.
That's fine.
So then we're going to leave it up to the planning commission and the review agent to handle the details.
And they can partner with DPW in any way they want to get the problem solved. Thank
Mr.
you.
McConnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't be long because Mr. Shakespeare pretty much covered everything that I was going to say. But just interesting, I had this very conversation today with the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Mr. Mike Marchand, who I think is sitting in the audience there right now. And I just want to add on to that in part of this planning process, because I've had this discussion with Mr. Bill Rue several times, is a problem that we have is once a subdivision is built, then we have to do a lot of the maintenance work, and that's one of the things that's killing us as well. And if DPW can have input on what goes in there and before that subdivision is approved, then we can also make it easier for our crews to maintain that and to continue that. But yeah, I'm all over this, and I'm in favor of that 100%. Too funny. We talked about that just earlier today with Mike Marshall. Thank you.
One other comment is, and I want to make it clear, what DPW has been fighting is going to a planning commission meeting and making comments and presenting our case at a planning commission meeting. We do not like that. But we want all the problems, everything to be resolved prior to the meeting, and have no need for us to get in there and get between the landowner and the commission or the developer and the commission in presenting our case. We need to do it beforehand, and we don't. And again, the reason we stopped going to the commission meetings is because we were drawn into this, and we thought it was best to do it beforehand. And we were trying to make sure that that the commission did it the way we thought was best.
Mr. Hillenbeck.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you remember from the last strategic planning meeting, I asked that the draft drainage ordinance be pulled and that we not bring it to the council because I didn't think it was ready. And based on some of the comments and what's just recently happened, I know it's not ready. Somehow or another, we need to look at these developments in how there's got to be a multiplier factor that you figure in, that this subdivision, then this next subdivision just south of it, the next subdivision south of it, all these subdivisions in one area, how you can't look at them individually and say, well, it has no impact on the drainage in that area. And I think that's something that we're missing, Bill, and I wish you would maybe you and CJ look at that draft ordinance. And, of course, I've asked Michael Sanji to look at it, and I've also asked Mr. Epps, Mitch Epps, who has a great deal of experience with drainage and drainage problems in the parish over the years. Ask them to look at it as well and maybe compare it to St. Tammany's ordinance. They have a pretty good ordinance, but when we do pass this ordinance as a council, let's pass a good ordinance that's going to help the people.
Mr. Chairman, and again, going back to the parish president, in no uncertain terms, said that we are to do something and stop putting out verbiage on what we're going to do, but actually do something. And we are getting involved personally with each one of these subdivisions. The fact of the matter is, if you look around, the problem is development. There's no getting out of it. Zero impact flow off of a developed piece of property is not good enough. We've been using zero impact, and we're finding some problems right now. Zero impact is not good enough. We need to reduce that impact coming out of developments, all developments, at least 15%. So if you go back and you think about it right now, is every development over the last 5 years reduced the flow coming off that piece of property by 15%, you can see what kind of problems we would not have right now. Your ditches don't need to be as big. Your major canals don't need as big if you're catching that water, retaining it, and not allowing it to get to the ditch. So this is something that DPW is adamant about, and we're going to be pushing it, and the administration, and we're going to be pushing it to the drainage ordinance and to the strategic planning.
I just learned about Ms. Jones' situation this afternoon when I got my email back up. It's been down. And I had 120 of them in there, so I spent a lot of time reading, and I got most of them printed out, and I sure thought I had yours printed out too, because she did say that she's been several times, to DPW working on the problem. But one of the things that I wanted to mention was that she said she's sort of like an isolated case in her subdivision. We have similar situations in Province Point. It seems, and we can't go back and undo the past, what's done in the past, but it seems like that in these developments that we're having more and more problems with one or two houses in a subdivision that really somebody didn't pay attention that that's where the natural water's going, and it's going to go right straight through the house. Then she also, and we need to try to correct that as much as possible, because I know in Province Point that there was one particular house while I lived in that subdivision and was at the back end high and dry. The water went straight through, and it was sheet water coming. It wasn't going through canals and ditches. It was a pouring down rain type situation, and it just went straight across the land. Now they're going to build a subdivision in that spot. They said it was going to help Province Point. I sure hope so. But we won't know until the subdivision's built, whether they'll have more water or less water, or whether the people in the new subdivision will have the water. But we need to try to fix those problems for the future. Somehow or another we need to have somebody that can know the land and understand where the water's coming from and do the obvious, put a green space there. They're going to have to do something. You can't put it where the water's going. Another problem with the 120 emails, they weren't all dealing with drainage, but a good portion of them were. I seem to hear the same thing about culverts being undersized and the water not getting in the culverts, but actually going around the culverts. And so these are some of the problems. In 2 floods and 2 weeks, 2 rains this past week, my water hasn't had any trouble with the Goudin and the New River because the pumps seem to be doing an adequate job. But the people are complaining about culverts and ditches not being cleaned, and those are the kind of things that we need to address. And I want to thank DPW because DPW has addressed all those that I knew about in Rita, people that called me, and I got the information to them. And I have a little email today. I had a good one, actually. And it's from somebody off of Tommy Moore, and she said the ditch on my side of the house was completely full, but the water was draining very quickly. I was very happy to see the water draining so rapidly. So there was at least one issue that we know was solved from Hurricane Rita, and the people did not experience rain coming up this time. So I wanted to comment on that, and also make sure that when we task the people that are doing our new codes, that they take a look at making sure that we don't have isolated houses in subdivisions that are too low, and that their drainage system is not adequate. Thank you.
Got another speaker, John Farrell.
Yeah, I live in the Southwood subdivision, and they've basically did an extensive amount of money paying for these culverts with this gate and valve, and they were supposed to, whenever you have a flash flood like you're saying, they're supposed to come out there, put a pump out there, close the gate, and pump it over. Well, I made 8 phone calls from Saturday night, and never did anybody come out there and bring a pump and pump it over or open the gate. That gate's been chained and it's still chained. The water didn't drain out till late Monday morning. And basically the whole streets were flooded on the back of the Southwood subdivision. So if you didn't have an SUV or a truck, you weren't getting out. It was up halfway up my yard. Now, they spent an extensive amount of money putting this gate culvert with this gate, with the chain. They came out there and they told us they're going to come out there and they're going to go ahead and unlock the chain, close the gates, bring a pump it over. Never happened. And when they did come out there for Rita, which was after Katrina, whatever, when they came out, they had a pump out there. When they did pump it, they had one gate open and the other gate closed. So basically, all they did was just make a circle. So they just pumped the water right back into the subdivision. I think we need to go ahead and worry more about what we have now instead of, like the statement you made, we don't want to be unfair to the developer. I think we need to worry about the people that we have now in this community versus then what we're going to develop. And it's been an ever-ending problem. I've talked with Mr. Scheck Snyder on this, and matter of fact, I talked to Mr. Martin this morning about this. They came out there and they're trying to solve the problem, but the thing is, they're putting these things in place, and there's nothing happening. They're just sitting there, and it's kind of disheartening to sit there and watch that gate, just the chain being locked there, and watching the water just rise, and making phone calls, and then one sitting there saying, well, this is not the city, that's the parish. Well, the city came out and put barricades. Parish never came out. And I know because I personally made 8 phone calls.
Address this issue.
I just talked to the drainage manager, and he said we didn't have a call on it that he'd heard of any Saturday night or Sunday morning. The fact of the matter is, if in fact the water level rose in the back part of that subdivision, and if in fact our people didn't go out there and do something about it, then I have a problem also. I have to check with my people and see what's going on. The standard procedure for that subdivision is the purpose of the floodgates, 2 gates, and the purpose of putting a pump there is that in the past, you had a similar situation where you had backup water coming off of Ball Bayou and Conway, backing up into the subdivision and remaining there for a week sometimes. The purpose of the floodgate and the purpose of pumping it is to shut it down, pump the streets dry so that people can go back and forth. And that should have been done if, in fact, the water, went into the roads where it was unpassable this past weekend. And if it was going to look like it was going to stay there for a substantial period of time, and I would say in a day or more, we should have went out there and supplied a pump and pumped it dry. So I investigate that and get more information.
And that's the thing. You can sit there and say that you weren't aware of it, and that's fine. But I know the city was, because I called the city, and when the city guy came, there was barricades out there. They were just took off this afternoon. The city guy was there and brought the barricades. But he told me, he says, you got to talk to the parish. And as a matter of fact, you look at the sheriff's log, the sheriff's department log, because they're the ones that gave me the number to call drainage. And I went ahead and called, and I sat there and I was supposed to get a return call. Never got a return call. Well, that's fine. But the thing is, that's why I'm here. I'm going to go ahead and let you know exactly what I see, what's going on in that subdivision. I know that there was I'm the last house on there. Because they were basically, when they were doing all this work, I was out there every day watching them do their work. I'm offshore engineer, so I work offshore. So when I come in, I'm off for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, I watched them go ahead and build this culvert, this fancy culvert. Engineers coming out telling me how this was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. Then when we needed to use it, there was no pumps out there. There was nobody out there. Nobody came. So.
And again, I will investigate and see and get the facts for the board. But that is our standard operating procedure, is to
Thank you.
shut it down and pump clean.
Let me ask a question. Mr. Farrell, what number did you call for the parish?
I called the sheriff's department, and then they gave me the number. I got it at home.
Okay. You make sure I understand. You said you called the city
I called the police department,
for the city of Gonzales.
City of Gonzales, and they gave me the city. And then when the city came out there, they said I have to call the parish. And that's when I went ahead and called back, and they gave me the parish number. And then I called, and they said,
What did you get when you called? Did you talk to somebody?
I talked to a lady, and she said that they're going to get somebody to call me back, and nobody ever called me back. I never actually talked to anybody from the parish. Somebody was supposed to call me back.
What day was this? Today?
No, this was Sunday.
Well, again, and not doubt your words, sir, but we have two procedures. Number one is the sheriff's office doesn't give out the man on call's number. What they do is contact the man on call and tell the man on call to call
That's
your
what
number.
I said. They're supposed to call me back, and I never got a phone call
Right, but they don't
back.
give out a number. They just say we'll contact the person. Give you. They take your number. They contact our man on call. Our man on call
what I'm
calls
saying
you
is
back.
The police department gave me the city's number. When I called the city said they don't handle that. The parish does, and they'll have them call me. And I never got a call back. I mean,
Okay.
and I'm not
So,
going to get
again,
into.
it
I'm
might
not
be
going to get into a pissing
Right,
match.
it might
you
be
know.
a break. Apparently, it's a breakdown of communication. I think, and we will look into it and correct the situation. I promise you.
We should have an emergency call for a call number that's publicized, and everybody in Ascension Parish knows when they have water problems, they can call a certain number, and it can be as simple as having an answering service have it, and they have a list of people that need to know about this, and they can contact them immediately, and that way the residents of Ascension Parish can do this directly, and they know exactly where to go. And I think that would be the proper thing to do.
Yeah, that number is posted. Each phone book has the emergency preparedness for hurricanes, flooding, and that number is the sheriff's office dispatch, because they have somebody there 24 hours a day. And then so whenever that person, and I talked to the sheriff personally several times during the night Saturday, whenever the person in the sheriff's office gets a call from any of our constituents, well, then that person will dispatch that call to the person that's on call for the weekend for Public Works. And in that instant, that begins the process of getting people together to meet the need. And so we're going to have to follow up and just see who was on dispatch with the sheriff's office. And that number is published in the phone books. And I think our on APTV or the Ascension channel now, also these numbers will be on there. But it is the dispatch number for Ascension, for the sheriff's office, and in the past it's worked fairly well with them. And I know it worked Saturday because I personally talked to the dispatch person. First, I've heard about this. I've been out to Southwood before when the pumps were working. I think that was Ivan year before. I don't remember which event. But now I'm going to make sure, Bill, we understand, though, from what the gentleman is saying, that if I understand you, really, the purpose of the floodgate is not to keep the backwater from coming in more, right? I mean, so these should not have been open even if we'd have had a call Saturday night.
They're open all the time.
Yeah, they're supposed to stay
They
open
stay
and allow
open.
drainage to go back and forth.
What happens is when the level starts going up, it's supposed to close. Somebody come out there, unlock it, and close it.
That's it. And again, it stays open to allow the drainage to go in and out. The whole purpose is in the past, the complaint for the people living in that subdivision is not a flooding issue of the houses. They did not have a problem with that. The problem is when Conway and Ball Bayou overflows into the swamp, it backs up into that subdivision, and the water stays on the roads of the subdivision, making it impossible to pass through to the back part of the subdivision until all of the water subsides. Ball Bayou, Conway, everything subsides and goes out. So what we did, we put the gates there, and we modified the levee in the back. So once the water went in there, we could shut it down and then pump the streets dry so they could pass back and forth. But we never opened the gates or closed the gates until the streets actually started getting flooded. And then we'd close it off, pump it dry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I think maybe a little bit better communication for is using the TV. I think we should have it posted, like maybe Saturday night, get Randy out there to post what was open for their convenience, sandbagging,
Well,
what was available?
Right
that
now,
night?
we don't have the live capability.
Okay.
And we will have it
Getting
here,
close.
we're getting close on this building and in the Emergency Operations Center, but right now, we do not have a live feed. We signed a contract last week with ETEL, hopefully they'll sign it so that we can
get that.
come here or go to the room over there and do a live broadcast to our people.
Great.
Randy and them can do something similar, Todd, to our little advertisement that we put together for our transportation committee, that they could get on. It's not live, but they could splice it in. And it might mean that somebody has to get out from the TV, crew to get out there and post it on the. But I had several problems in that people were looking for sandbags. They knew they were going to have to sandbag. They wanted to sandbag ahead of time, and they didn't really know where to go get them. I have some people, Mr. Ruth, that are looking to maybe store some sand in a neighborhood shed, maybe in some barrels or something, and do the bags separate, that they can kind of put it together quickly in floods. I don't know if that's possible, but the water came up so quick, it was very close to going in some of the front doors, and if they would have had some sand, it actually stopped just short of that, the rain, thank God. But if they would have had some sand available in their neighborhood, they could have taken care of some of those kind of things, in that type of situation. They'd have to have it ahead of time.
And it's so, the logistics of doing something like that is very, very difficult, of trying to find a locate a place and bag sand, and then once you bag it, it's only good for so long because some of the bags, deteriorate over time, and there's a lot of problems. We do have a location, the fire departments, we have one central location that we keep the bag sand at, and free sand and sand bags. And we had volunteers at Lusto 4, and that's the location, Saturday night. And Mr. Weetek has volunteers out there doing the work. And to be honest with you, we had several phone calls. Again, when it goes to dispatch, the sheriff's office pass it on to us. We give them the location. In fact, dispatch had the location after a while. We only had just several people, and I'm talking about several, maybe 3, 4 people that actually went out there and got sand and sandbags. But we were available. We had the bags and the sand already bagged for them.
They didn't really want to, because they know the problem with bagging sand ahead of time, that they're going to rot, they're going to bring ticks and all sorts of other things. But they were hoping that maybe that, and they obviously don't need a whole lot, but they did say that they had talked among themselves and had identified a shed that maybe they could keep sand where they could keep it barreled or something like that, that they could go fill the bags up if they needed them. Because, 15 minutes time makes a big deal when it's flash flooding. By the time they get across town to get bags, it's too late. Would that be possible? I guess they could get their own sand from somewhere.
That's it. It would not be a recommendation to the parish because you're leading into possible abuse. And I'll give you, for instance, years ago, we used to deliver sand in flooding situations to a number of places, houses, subdivisions, and it turned out it really became a problem because we actually found out where a lot of people was calling for dump trucks full of sand, and at a later date we found out that they were just never bagged it. They're using it to fill in holes in their yards after the flood or something like this. And it's just the problem is that the parish is not there to give something of value to to personal landowners, and it can be abused, and they can be ordering this stuff and not something happening with it, and we have to keep supplying it and stuff like this. So it's not something that we would recommend.
Right, but if they wanted to buy their own sand, you could supply them with maybe some bags that they could have available.
Oh yes, we could do some bags.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Elizabeth.
Yeah, just one last request, Bill. Like I say, back in January, there was a commitment made that we were going to get started on Muddy Creek. Can I get a meeting with maybe you and CJ, and we'll sit down and discuss that? Because we've got to have some help up there for those people.
It's still on a priority list, and also, of course, we have done some work further up around
Right.
Charleston, and it helped out this go around, I think. And that was some of the worst part. up through there.
Well, in the case of
we
Miss Shaw,
need to
she's not
continue.
kidding when she says she
Right.
has short horses. She's got miniature horses.
Right.
And I'd hate for her to lose those horses when the water comes up. And
But we have several other problems in that neighborhood that we have to handle, and we can talk to at a later date with you about it. And it had to do with some catch basins and some other issues that's causing a problem right in that area.
Well, I'll get with you after the meeting, but I'm available tomorrow afternoon.
Next spokesperson is Ms. Irene Peterson.
Good evening. I live at 38051 Bayou Meadow Street in Bayou Grand North subdivision, and I've lived there since 1984. I have a drainage ditch that runs behind my house, and the next street over is Mistletoe, and our drainage ditch goes through under Tiggy DePlessis and over to the Bayou Goudin. And Saturday night, I was very, very lucky. The water was just, not even a hair from coming in my house. And that's the second time that's happened since Hurricane Rita. I don't know what the problem is, but it seems like the drainage canals not being cleaned out has hurt me, because DPW did come and clean the ditch out behind my house about 6 months ago, and that helped tremendously. Several years ago, when the main street into my neighborhood was resurfaced, it was raised about an inch or two, and now the water doesn't flow over that area as quick going to the main drainage over by Tiggy DePlessis. What happens is, my neighborhood drains. The lady in Silverstone, her neighborhood is down Tiggy DePlessis, so all of that's draining toward us. I'm in a low spot in the neighborhood, which I acknowledge. But what happens is the ditch, there's nowhere for the ditch to go, so when the Goudin starts to back up over Tiggy DePlessis, then everything just starts backing up into my neighborhood, and I get it from the front of my house and the back of my house. Not just my house, my neighbors on both sides of the drainage ditch, and also we have one lady that's on the corner, Miss Margaret Lee. She gets a lot of water threatening her home too. I'm here because I'm concerned. I don't want my house to flood. It seems that over the last several years, maybe it is all the new construction in the area, coupled with the fact that maybe the drainage canals have not been cleaned properly so that the water can move out. I was a little late this evening. I apologize. I heard Mr. Roos say something about the pumps were not turned on until about 10 o'clock. Well, at 10 o'clock, the water was at my door. So I don't know what the operating procedure is for having the pumps turned on. I don't know if that's a manual procedure or if it's driven by the amount of water. If it is driven by the amount of water, then evidently the water in my neighborhood wasn't getting down there fast enough, so it didn't, generate the pumps to be turned on. I'm afraid that if we have another rain like this, my house is going to flood, and I would just appreciate whatever you all could do to remedy the problem. If it means cleaning out ditches, and that's a lot less expensive than doing something else, I would recommend that. I don't know, but I did want to come and just let you gentlemen know that I didn't call Saturday night, and I didn't call when Rita came because we managed it okay, but we have a problem in Bayou Grand North, and it's probably about 7 homes that are threatened right now. Thank you.
Could you repeat your address, please?
38051 Bayou Meadow.
Yeah, again, we're going back to the whole problem of subdivision, infrastructure within subdivisions, especially some of the, well, in fact, it's across the board, older and new subdivisions. This kind of ties into another problem that DPW has that we need to resolve, and that is encroachment into the servitude, encroachment too close to the ditches to be able to enlarge it to any size. This particular ditch has been cleaned, had some work done on it to do a whole lot more, and I think I know this ditch, but we have many ditches in the parish behind these servitudes that the fences are right along the side of it. You can't get a piece of equipment in there. You can't make it any larger. You can't do a significant cleaning of it. You basically have to send trustees in sometime to cut the weeds. This is throughout the parish, and mostly in subdivisions. A major problem, and we do see where we could go in there and do some improvements, but it's so much to go back to the landowners and the property owners and say, you know, we have to move your fence. You have to move it, and then we have to go to the attorney and write letters and everything else to try to get them to move their fence, and then it's a major problem. And again, in these subdivisions is the worst part, is to get the right servitude and keep encroachment out of these drainage servitudes.
Mr. Thompson.
Bill, how much, when you have a fence on the line, how much servitude are you supposed to give?
We have usually 15 foot. Sometimes you'll have a combination 7.5, 7.5, you know, along the property line, something like this. In some cases, DPW is recommending more, 15 foot on each side, depending on the circumstance.
Come up with some type of ordinance to restrict people from putting fences on the servitude?
We already have it.
Right. If I may, Mr. President, another suggestion DPW is coming forth with is part of the drainage ordinance is to say to have closed ditches with adequate subsurface drainage in all servitudes along subdivision, both the road and the rear drainage, and then you eliminate this problem. Or if you're going to have open ditches, it's mandated that the developer, as part of the development, put the fences up before, you know, we'll give final acceptance. So we know the fence is put along the servitude. There's no encroachment. We can check it out and approve it before the landowner starts building or anything else. So we have some type of control. Once you allow you accept the subdivision and you allow the home builders to go in there, and then the landowner to buy the home, then start improving their backyard, that's where the problem comes in, because you don't know about it until there's a problem, and by that time, a number of fences already been put up. So.
Bill, she also mentioned that.
Hey, to use your mic.
She also mentioned since we resurfaced Tigger Presses Road that we raised it and the water's not flowing across the road to get out fast enough. Could we look at putting a bigger culvert under the road?
Well, again, this is going back to my previous comment. Infrastructure within the subdivisions. How high you raise that road should not be an impact. Your drainage system, be it covered for the driveways or whatever, and the ditch size should be able to handle the drainage alongside the road. When you start raising a road by 1 inch or 2 inch, and that's impacting your drainage within your drainage system is inadequate. So again, we get into this the whole problem, root problem. But you're right. We can do something to eliminate some flooding by upgrading some of the cross drains, and that's what we're going to look at. But it goes back to the root cause, which is subdivision development is not a high enough standard, or at least in some of the older subdivisions.
Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hillsback.
Yeah, going back to what Ms. Peterson said about the ditch was cleaned out, I don't know, some 6 months ago. Of course, I haven't seen this particular ditch. I'd like to get by there and look at it and take a look at it. But, you know, in December, in my first PowerPoint presentation I listed several subdivisions that were affected when we shifted priorities and we stopped the dredging program. And I just want to bring to everyone's attention, Bayou Grand North is one of the subdivisions I've got listed. And if the ditch has been cleaned out, it's pretty obvious to me there's no place for the water to go, and we need to dredge and help that flow get to the pump station. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill, the design for CDM on the Henderson Basin, when do we anticipate a rough answer what they're going to do as far as pumping and the pumping station?
One moment, please. Well, we just, I had to talk to CJ for a moment. The task order is being submitted now, and we will tomorrow talk to CDM and have a reply on the time limit. We will have a time limit for at least a report back to the board on their status. And we may not be able to get the end time to complete the process, but we at least give a time limit on the first report back to the council to give a better estimate of how long it would be before the final document is completed. So we'll contact CDM and we'll give this to the board via email, their response.
Okay, we need to know something as soon as possible on this. Looks like about half of this room is, I'm affected in my area. Councilman Jared and Councilman Doug, a lot of that water is in this basin. We also need more location for sandbags. People going back and forth across the parish, trying to get to the Lusto Forward location. We need to set up some more sites. Half of the roads are closed trying to get across the parish. It's just, it's putting it people at risk on the roads with, barricaded, and I think we need more locations. Also fire stations, but I know schools fixing to be out. If we have to store these things at schools, we need to get some more locations. The other thing, I would like the board to consider maybe a mock drill for a 6 to 8 inch flash flood to just to see what would happen. I know we all been in these committee meetings, and I think they're more or less saying, hey, something happens to you, you're on your own. So I think that's something this board should, consider. I know we do a lot of mock drills with the plants, but I think it's time to take drainage serious. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Deputy. Mrs. Farnham.
Well, I know Ms. Peterson is talking about the North Grand subdivision, and also Ms. Lee. I talked to Ms. Lee. In fact, I went out there that Thursday, must have been Friday morning or whatever, right after the rain. I went the next morning out there to see about the water, because if the water's not really draining properly and getting into the Goudin, it'll stay. There was no water, but she was out there cleaning at the edge of her culvert with a rake. I actually ran into her accidentally because she was cleaning the culvert out, and I was going to check on the situation. And so we had a nice long talk at the road. And what happens a lot of times in some of these drainage ditches is that the debris, I'm talking about the limbs and the trash and the paper bags and the whatever, gets to the end of the culverts and stop it up. And that's what she was actually doing, was pulling the stuff out with her rake to try to get the water to go on through. And one of the things that I would like to see happen is that our DPW spend a more time in the wintertime when the tree limbs fall and the tree limbs come down, because that's a major problem. You get a nice size limb and branches that float downstream. They get next to the culvert, and then every paper bag and every piece of paper and trash gets up against it, and the water's not going anywhere. So that's one of the things. And I've got several emails from people in Bayou Grand area, and one particular person was complaining because the neighbor rakes the limbs and the leaves and stuff up puts it on the side of the ditch, and then when the flash flood and the water comes, all of those limbs get in the ditch and go on down and end up down toward her. Another thing that they complained about the flooding was the water not coming, not the fact that it couldn't get into the Goudin, but that most of it was coming over the last few years from the new subdivisions that were south of them. Chase Court across the 621, Rockford Place, those places is what I was told comes behind their houses to get out. Also, when you cross the Bayou Grand subdivision street, and the big ditch that goes to Tiggy Duplessis has gas pipes on both ends, on Bayou Grand end and also on the back end. This catches a lot of stuff, which keeps the water from going down. I did go out to several of the places Sunday morning. In fact, Sunday morning, I was really surprised at the water that was gone out of my area, because I came in Saturday night at 12:30, and on my road, I live right across from Gulf Net Seafood, and I live to the back. And on my road, I had to go completely through water to get to park my car under my carport. I've never seen that. That wasn't there during Rita. But Sunday morning, it was all gone. Then, so I got out at 7 o'clock in the morning to go check. I went through Bayou Grand. I went through Southwood Village. I went through Province Point. I went around in some of those areas because that's where the water normally goes. I was surprised to see how dry the ditches actually were in some places that I've lived there and seen the water. I lived in Province Point prior to where I'm living now, and there was always water in Province Point. And when you got on 73 between Province Point and the Shell station at 621, you could just see floods of water, and it would stand there for days. There was no water there this time. Now, I have pictures of what they cleaned out in the Goudin. I did go back in the Southwood Village, and the water did come up there. The water is coming from Silverstone, and also down that way, and it has got to go through them to get into the Goudin, which they would get all the water and have to try to worry about sandbagging at that end also. And their water got out a little bit faster this time. And it didn't go to the second bar on the fence, but to the first bar. And we know they had more water than they did for Rita. So that was an improvement there. I know that DPW is going to continue to improve. Bill, can you tell me, I know I've asked several times about the Goudin. Was the Goudin on a list to be dredged?
Not on the original plan. It was added at a later date in the long-term plan by the other council 4 years ago, I think.
But I asked you since, and I know several people have asked, and that wasn't one of the things we directed. That wasn't in the plans that he's talking about. That area was not going to be dredged.
Not initially, no. The next three reaches would be the Black Bayou up until Germany Road, and going through Gonzales, 2 reaches going up to Boyle, Smith Bayou, where it intersects with New River.
Goudin, yeah,
at New River.
Yeah, I don't.
Before you go any further, Mr. Hillensbeck, one of the things Ms. Peterson, complained about was the fact that we redirected money. It's time for you to make it clear to the people in Bayou Grand that their water goes into New River, not Bayou Francois and not Black Bayou. That's where our water goes. It goes from the Goudin into New River. And I know that for a fact because I lived all of my life. I was born and raised on New River, right across from Welsh Funeral Home. And we paddled the little canoe to the Goudin, where the Goudin enters New River, all of my life, all of my early days. And so for you to continue to say it's misleading because the people you keep talking about Bayou Francois and Black Bayou, and that we redirected this money from there somewhere else. But Mr. Root says we're still cleaning out Black Bayou. We're still dredging it. And the bulkhead in Gonzales is not going to affect. It's not having an effect right now on Gonzales or my water because it is getting out now. The water is getting through and getting out. And there was proof Saturday morning at 7 o'clock when there were no waters in the fields by the Cottage Inn and the little boot store back there off of 73. That water stayed there for days, and I know that because I live there.
Mr. Chairman. We shifted, Councilwoman Fontenot, $13 million in priority spending. Okay. We're out there attempting to build a levee that we do not have a permit from the Corps to build. Now, the fact of the matter is we need to dredge. The next phase of dredging was going to be Bayou Francois through Gonzales from Airline Highway, there at Sherwin-Williams, north to where it connects at Smith Bayou. There's an intersection right there at the Country Club where it connects with New River and Bayou Grand Goudin. And like Mr. Ruth said, the vision and the plan of the prior council then was at that point, once that section was dredged, to dredge north. Engineers I've talked to involved in this project stated that once we dredged that and we started dredging north through Grand Goudin, which by the way begins for the voters, the taxpayers that don't know it, it begins right there at St. John's Church. And that's right in the heart of the middle of your district. Had that next section been dredged, it would have lowered the water level at Providence Point some 20 to 25 inches. Now, you lower that water level 20 to 25 inches, and you're gonna prevent a lot of people from flooding. And for the life of me, it just makes no sense whatsoever to go out and attempt to build a levee when you don't have a permit. What we're doing is we're paying an engineer firm to design a levee when we do not have a permit. Now, in a previous discussion of all this, you made the statement, well, we have to build that levee to protect those pumps. I've been to that pump station. Those pumps are at such an elevation that we would have to have a flood of biblical proportion for those pumps to go under. I think the pumps themselves, the engines and the pumps, I believe they're at an elevation of about 12 feet. If they go under, the entire parish is gone if water ever gets to that level. And like I say, I just cannot believe with all this flooding, with all this development we've got, that we just continue to stay the course. And we're going to continue. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say it. These are my PowerPoints I've done. December and in February and March. I've been accused of having bad information. This is the information. Point it out and tell me where I am wrong. Mr. Savoy has stated repeatedly, I'll have a response for the media. I'll have a response later in the week. Mr. Hillensbeck's information is like a colander. It doesn't hold water. His facts are wrong. All these people showing up at flooding problems, and I've done my research, I've done my homework, and I happen to know I am right. So show me where I am wrong. Let's help the people that need the help. And let's stop paying these engineering firms doing all these studies when it's not even permitted. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I say something as the manager for your drainage board? Maybe this will help us to get refocused on some things. First of all, so all of you know and our citizens know, the TV program is being put together now to communicate with our citizens what we're asking them to do in state of emergencies. Obviously, we have hurricane season coming up a month from today. So if you have some input in that, would you please get with Mr. Eddie Howard, our director, so you can, if you'd like to be part of that presentation, to talk to our citizens and what we're asking them, be it from a natural disaster or a terrorism disaster, whatever. Secondly, I've listened here patiently on servitudes and things. As I understand it, and Mr. Root, correct me if I'm mistaken, a lot of the fences going up on these subdivisions, many of them decades old. And once they're built out, it's almost impossible, unless you guys want to hire a lot of enforcement people, to go to every lot along a servitude, because people are putting fences up after the fact. And until something happens, we're not even aware of it. And they're putting fences sometimes in the servitude, not just alongside of it, so we can't get equipment through. And as I recall, that's part of the problem out in Silverstone in one area. I'm not sure. And so these are sometimes, we can say, well, let's just enforce it, but a lot of these were built before you had all these ordinances in place, these older subdivisions. And so, but you, and it's terribly difficult to enforce every subdivision, all the lots now with fences on, because you got to have somebody going around constantly. But that is a problem in several areas, and as we find them, we're trying to identify them. But Mr. Parrott and I was talking about that before the meeting tonight. You know, how do you handle that legally to try to make sure you do it? Especially all those that were built prior to zoning and land use development in '99. Thirdly, I'm offering this to you as something that may help us all. We have several engineering firms that understand that the board is hired to do different scopes of work. And we're paying them significant amounts of money. Maybe it would be helpful if we would have a little working meeting, bring all these firms in one little summit, and let them tell us, and tell you as a board, what they've been hired to do, what's the outcome expected of their work, and how much this is costing to the taxpayers' money. Try to get refocused on some of this, because we seem to be all over the place. Now, my fourth point, and I want to make this as compassionately, as kind as I can, but let's be honest with ourselves and honest with all of our citizens. We don't want to see any home or roads or anything have water problems. None of us do. I don't know of anybody who does. But just my house, for example, when I got Saturday night 6 inches of rain in 1.5 hours in South Louisiana, we're going to have problems. I mean, let's not try to tell people government's going to solve all their problems. I don't expect government to. My street was very flooded. It took me a while before I could get out in the Parish. And so we have that kind of water in the building set for me. But my personal rain gauge was 6.5 inches between 8:30 and 10:30 Saturday night. And so when you have 6 inches of rain in 2 hours in a development that was probably designed for a 10-year rain event, which is 7.5 inches of rain in 24 hours, common sense tells all of us that we're going to have some problems. Now, we've got to do everything we can to address those problems, but we're not going to address them all to where we're going to prevent all of that from happening. Some acts of God or acts of Mother Nature we have no control over, as Katrina taught all of us. And as much as we want to help, we want to reach out and do everything we can, let's not give our people in the parish the impression that a pumping system that was designed in 1982 for a 5-year storm event, okay, 5-year, not 10-year, it was designed for a 5-year storm event. A lot of our people don't even understand this, and so I'll repeat it again tonight. The pumping system was designed for a 5-year storm event. And so we have a lot of things we have to do, but let's not play games with each other and with the people. I mean, when you have a system that's 20-something years old that was designed for a 5-year storm event, and you have whatever event that is with 6 inches of rain in 2 hours, obviously you're going to have some problems. And so I just remind us all of that, try to get us refocused on what can we do and what can't we do. And I think that's very important now. We can't do everything. We can't. We just, some things are beyond our control, and it's hard for us to admit that at times, but it is. Now, what we can do, we need to do. And we need to try to come together with the administration. You tell us as the Drainage Board what you want us to try to do, and you have our commitment to try to do it. But we're getting all kind of mixed signals on the board on what we're going to do. And so when you guys are a group say this is what we want East Ascension Consolidated Drainage to do, please let us know so we can work with you in trying to do it. And I thank you for that time, Mr. Chairman, and I just want to try to get us refocused a little bit. Thank you.
And, Mr. President, I'm glad you brought up the 5-year plan. I was at the pumping station at 2 o'clock in the morning Saturday when they kicked on the 5th pump because the 4 pumps running was not keeping up.
Right.
So, yes, it is a 5-year plan with the pumping system. So we definitely, down the road, are going to have more capacity at the pumps. And like I said, I was there, witnessed it with Ron Savoy, the supervisor was there. It was rising with 4 of our big pumps running. So we had to kick the 5th one on at about 1 o'clock. I was standing there when they kicked the 5th one on, and to get the level under control. And that was just, like you said, a 4.2 inches of rain. We got a big rain, you know. That's like Parish President said, 10-year, 25 years, it's going to be trouble down the road.
If you just let us know, Mr. Chairman, if you want us to bring in all these engineers in one presentation, and we'll arrange that. Okay, thank you.
I think, in the Parish President, and you also made a good point, Mr. Chairman, the fact of the matter, too, is those pumping, when we talking about when the water start rising at the pumping station, the reality is most of the water, the chance of any house flooding was eliminated.
Decreased.
That was all over with. You know, when the rain stopped, basically the threat of flooding started going down. It took it until 12, 1, 2 o'clock for the water in the northern part of the parish to get to the southern part, hours after the event. So what we were doing is actually trying to keep the flow going so most of the water would be out of the yards, out of the ditches as much as possible by Sunday, instead of remaining in the ditches, remaining maybe on some of the property until Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So the turning the pumps on wasn't really, we weren't trying to prevent flooding by turning the pumps on. Because on a major event, 2 hours, the length of time it takes for that water to suck down to that end of the parish is not going to prevent flooding of a flash flood. But it would eliminate the water from the ditches in a shorter amount of time that next day. So that's the reality of a pumping system.
Well, Bill, I want you to explain something to me because Ms. Peterson back there is very concerned about her property, and she's very concerned about her council representative, I'm sure. And I want to make sure that I have my facts right also. I've lived in this parish all my life, so I have a lot of on-hand experience. But would you explain to us about New River? I mean, he said, well, it goes into Smith's Bayou. But as I understand it, the water comes to New River, the Goudin, and further down Smith Bayou across on Corner View is where Smith Bayou is. The water doesn't flow that way, does it?
Actually, what happens at that end of the parish, the upper reaches of New River, past the Country Club of Louisiana, the Goudin. Once you get past it's a Smith Bayou. It's an intersection of Smith Bayou and New River, and it's a man-made. It's a weir there and everything to keep the level up in New River. Actually, above that location, the upper ends of New River, when it comes down, it actually splits. Some of it will go on into Smith Bayou and down Bayou Francois. Some of it will continue on. Most of it probably continue on down New River. The Goudin is around the curve from Smith Bayou, and the primary route of the Goudin is straight down New River through Gonzales. Now, you get into a major flooding situation where the elevation is high, you may have some, depending on the wind direction and the amount of wind blowing, you may have some of the Goudin backing up and going out through Smith Bayou, but you still have the primary route of the Goudin down New River. And again, the upper reaches of New River actually splits off. Some go to Bayou Francois, some go down New River. It has a chance to
I guess the question I'm asking, in order for the Goudin, you can't go dredge the Goudin without dredging New River.
Right.
I mean, basically,
you're going to let's put it like this: you will impact New River through Gonzales,
but not the bulkhead and Bayou Francois.
No.
In order for us to dredge the Goudin, we would need to be focusing on dredging New River.
Well, you need to do a model. The suggestion is, if you're going to do the Goudin, if you're going to do a major improvement of Goudin, you actually need to do the model going down New River to see how the dredging of the Goudin will affect the flow down New River through Gonzales and beyond, all the way to the pumping station. And
Now,
that has never been done.
Based on what, because you and I are not engineers, we just happen to live in this parish a while. Based on what you know, and the flow that we have going in the Goudin right now, is major dredging necessary or just more cleaning and grubbing?
It depends, and I qualify that because of the developments going on in the northern part of the parish and along the Goudin. It is my impression that if you don't do anything about actually raising the standard of retention in the developments, you may have to do something in the Goudin. If you don't do anything, if you let it go, or if you can, or if you let it go the way it is right now, you probably will have to do something. If you can improve the detention in those developments, you probably won't have to. A good cleaning, shaping of the Goudin would probably suffice.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
I just stepped out for a cup of coffee.
Hang on a second, Doug. Thompson.
Okay, sure.
All I had to say was a little bit about Laura Ridge Levy. Is the only way we're going to get any money from through the Corps, you have to do a study. And after the study, you have to have a preliminary design. But you can't get any money. So to do that project, we have to do that. We're not wasting money on engineering fees.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Thank you. Mr. Shakes, I don't think you would think.
I have a couple of things. First of all, we had an event, and it was very unusual. I happened to be in Donaldsonville Saturday night. They were celebrating the bicentennial there. It turned out to be a great event, by the way. And I was in a restaurant picking up a sandwich, and it rained so hard, no one in the restaurant could actually get across the street. The water came up from doorstep to doorstep on open, concreted streets that flows directly to Bayou Lafourche, which was 10 feet lower than the streets. It was ridiculous storm. It was unbelievable. We just need to recognize that and understand we will get, probably living in South Louisiana, we're going to get one of these ridiculous storms again. I know what I'm going to do on two of my properties is that I'm going to put some sandbags along the side somewhere where if something like that happens, I can put something in the front door, and that we can't wait for anybody. There's no government entity that can stop that. And I think in some cases we're going to have to take a look at all residences of this parish and face the facts. We're in South Louisiana in a flat area, and we're developing in areas where we're going to have some problems. And that if you can do some things, try to do some things that if it's 10 sandbags that you need to protect your doors and things come up right away and then they go down. It seems to be the case that a lot of times we're not getting water in the house, or we may get a half an inch that we could possibly stop from getting in there. That let's kind of get together and help our neighbors and do some of this. And if you need help from DPW, let's try to see what we can do in advance. And I think we can do that. But I do want to compliment the DPW drainage people for coming out on a Saturday night. They were called out at about 12 or 15 of them came out in a hurry. And I know the people of Sorrento, the water was coming up right away, and they were able to get the pumps on, and they went down right away. And so the improvements they made there worked. People were worried, people were scared because it came up so fast, and it did go down. So I want to compliment them because what they had done, and on a Saturday night to get that many people out was good. So from that standpoint, I do want to say that in a very unfortunate situation that we did have, and some things happened. And the other thing is that the levee system, and we can talk about dredging all these canals and everything. They could have dredged everything in New Orleans all they wanted. if Katrina would have gone, what they say, 30 to 40 miles to the west, and that wall of 7 to 8 foot water would have come into Ascension Parish, which the models say it would have, it wouldn't matter if we'd have dug every drainage ditch in this parish. We would have had major substantial flooding from storm surge. And to look back and say, everybody said, well, why didn't they do this in the levees in New Orleans? Well, everybody said, well, maybe we can get by a little bit longer and let's dig this ditch, let's do that, and let's do that. And they didn't spend their money improving their levees. And whatever we have to do as the number one priority of this parish, because I saw the models, I found out, I've taught Louisiana history before, and I saw the models. And if we have a storm that comes in the right area, half or two-thirds of this parish can get storm surge from a storm coming up through Lake Maurepas and through the Santa Mo area and through Bayou Henderson Bayou and everything. That's going to be substantial. And the cost benefits of that, ask them about what's the cost benefits in New Orleans. We not only should do this, we have to do this. We have to do these models and find out just what we have to do to get levees and protect us from storm surge first, because that's catastrophic. And from there, I think now's the time to ask for and try to receive monies from the federal government to assist us in levees, because the people in Ascension Parish have put up their fair share. And it's time to get some more from the federal government. But we have to do the studies to do this. And one thing I've learned after this time, and you get no money unless you hand them a plan that's done by an engineer and stamped off and doing that. And I think that's what we're trying to do now, so that the people of the parish can be protected from the major storms, and then work our way from there. And so I just want to say that's the area that I think we're headed, and hopefully we can continue to move forward with that. And I know we get knocked around a lot here or there, but I do want to compliment the workers for the parish that came out in a very hard situation and did very well.
Thank you, Ken. Mr. Rook.
That's the last part before my report, which went in all directions, I think, is in it. I would like to say one other thing that's really important, and that is floodplain management. A lot can be done with floodplain management, and I'm not talking about the FEMA maps, and I'm not talking about elevations. What I'm talking about is retaining our storage area. If in fact, and I'll give you a good for instance, if in fact a certain part of the Goudin leaves the bank by 50 foot on each side at a certain place, nobody should encroach into that 50-foot span. I mean, leave it for storage. Allow your banks to overflow. What's happening now, you're going in there and you're allowing development to come in, give a design to hold the water back and everything, but our floodplain management is not to the point where we're restricting any encroachment into our floodplain. It's more important to allow that floodplain to take a natural course than it is to confine it and try to dig a bigger hole in the ground or ditch to contain it. Let it go where it needs to go and keep people away from it. Keep building away from it. Leave it green space or whatever. Allow the water to overflow the banks where it's safe to overflow. This is something that has not been done to the extent it needs to be done, and it needs to be part of a total management plan as part of zoning, where we can identify these locations and actually have a map of the locations along our major bayous, and that's it. There's no encroachment. It stays a green space. You allow the banks to overflow, and that's critical to our management plan.
Bill, do we have what we need on the books to enforce this? Because I've run into several areas in my district with this that they covered up with floodplains.
No, because again, you get a little bit of, I guess, lack of authority between the different agencies. You got floodplain management, but floodplain management don't have a whole lot of enforcement powers.
Well,
you go to zoning, and then they've got a whole different other type of ordinances that regulates that. The fact of the matter, and that's why DPW and floodplain management need to be involved and have the power to say no encroachment, no matter what. And that's it.
Okay.
Mr.
That
Chair.
can be part of the drainage ordinance.
Good.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I first started researching and looking at the drainage issues some 5-6 months back now, I did a site visit to Grand Goudin, and Ms. Fontenot, Grand Goudin, the majority of the water does flow through Bayou Francois, through Gonzales. In fact, when I just stepped out and had got a cup of coffee, Mr. C.J. Godin, who is the drainage engineer and the floodplain manager for the parish, he confirmed that to me as we were next door in the room. Now, back to the issue of feasibility studies versus design. We've already had a request go in for federal dollars to Washington for this levee. The first thing the people in Washington said when they opened up our request is, where is your core permit? We don't have a core permit. Ladies and gentlemen, we've put the cart before the horse. Thank you.
Todd. Valentine, you hadn't spoken tonight.
I hadn't spoke the last couple of months because I'm really getting pretty sick of the Doug Hillensbeck show, to tell you the truth, because I'm pretty tired of it. But if Mr. Godin just told you that, then we need to replace Mr. Godin, because I can tell you that runs north. Mr. Quitmore lives right there on the corner of Belle Terre subdivision, and that water runs south. I don't know of any time that I've ever seen the water run from the Grand Goudin up to Smith Bayou. Never. We sitting here, it's a half a mile north where the Grand Goudin runs in the New River. Now, we've been sitting here talking about the Gonzales plan. The Gonzales plan is Bayou Francois. That's not going to help the Grand Goudin one bit. I don't know where you get this 25 inches in Providence Point, because if we'd have put bulkheads around City Hall and come through there and did all that, I don't know where you got all that information. I'd like to see it. I've heard you talk about it. I've heard you give a lot of misinformation, but I done had enough of coming here for 3 hours on drainage board meetings, listen to someone get on a soapbox and talk about because we shifted priorities. Mr. Shake Snyder makes a good point. And we haven't stopped dredging. We haven't stopped grubbing. We still plan on doing all of that. But for us to sit here and argue over a flash flood, that what we just experienced, something that we haven't had in this parish for a while. I mean, nobody, and parish president said it earlier, nobody could foresee this. We had people that panicked, and I don't blame them. They should have panicked. But we also had a lot of close calls out there because we did do some cleaning, and it was able to get out fairly quick. The new subdivision, like they talked about, Mr. Rue is right. We do need to do something. There's a unique situation right there on Highway 73. We took all the open ditches out of 73, put everything underground. But you got all these new subdivisions that flows into here, though you got the old subdivision like Dutchtown Acres that sits and collects all the water on top. And we need to go in there and do some work with some culverts and some things in there. But you got cobblestone next to it that had 6 inches of water in the road because that's where it all went. But the houses were all nice and dry. But it all flows out into Highway 73, fills up those drainage pipes, and of course it's a little slower for the water to get out of Dutchtown Acres. But I think people understand that generally on what's taking place. I'm really getting sick and tired of coming here and lasting 3 and 4 hours and having to hear the same old thing. You know, when you lose, then you ought to be a good loser and lose. And then let's move on.
I haven't lost anything. I think the people are losing because of the vote.
Did he ask for the floor, Todd?
I see the discussion. I got another gentleman that wants to speak in the audience, Mr. Chester. Mr. Chester left?
Yeah, he had 2 small children.
Oh, okay. Mr. Chester there. We're going to move on to number 7. Riprap cost estimate for Michael Myers property. We got Mr. Bill Rue with that. I think it's in your package.
The Drainage Board directed DPW to do some riprapping along Bayou Francois near US 61. Part of it had 2 different locations. One is at the Michael Myers property, which is a hard turn in that bayou, and then just I guess east of there at another location across the bayou. We have the cost estimate right here of the Michael Myers riprap or erosion control, and it comes to about $42,000. The other location, which is not down here, is just across the bayou It's about half that distance, so you're looking at about 20,000 for that location. So again, we were directed to do those two jobs, and I'm coming back to the board with the cost estimate and approval of the board to move forward with the project.
Move forward with that
Got a
project.
motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Shakespeare. Any questions?
Just a comment. I thought we'd already voted to go ahead and do that. You can see this first email is dated back in July. There's some significant erosion problems there. We've been and we have been talking about it for a great deal of time. I mean, I appreciate the motion in the second, and yes, by all means, let's go forward. I really think we already voted on this, but a second vote is not going to hurt anything.
And just for clarification, you're absolutely right, Mr. McConnell, but the clarification, it makes it a lot easier going through finance and our auditors if the board actually approves the amount to be spent, because it is a substantial amount. And when it comes to this much money, we always have to make sure you know how much it's going to cost, and then the finance department has less of a problem approving the work or the invoice.
And how once we give you this green light, how long before we can get the work done?
The ordering of material is the main holdup. As soon as the material comes in, then we can schedule it. But I don't think it would be no more than a few weeks before we can actually get started on it.
By this summer?
Oh, yes, definitely.
All right, thank you.
Have a motion and a second to purchase the riprap. Any objections? So moved.
I'd also move forward with that project.
Bill's got that. We're gonna move on, pass on number 8. I think at a couple of meetings back, we had already made a motion to pick 4 consultants, and they're gonna go through the task order with Bill and DPW. So we're just gonna pass on number 8. We got number 9, Fife subdivision, Adrian Thompson.
Yes, they took on a lot of water this weekend also, but with the amount of rain fell in that short period of time, it's, we can expect that. But I also would like for us to move forward with doing whatever we have to do to try to control some of that flooding, or control all of that flooding in that subdivision. I would like to offer a motion to spend the dollars, whatever it takes to help with the flooding in Fife subdivision. If it takes putting pumps, whatever. But I would like to offer that motion to move forward with that project.
I second it, Mr. Chairman.
I got a motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Questions? I think Mr. Bill had
If I
his
may.
hand up.
Yeah, what we're looking at, of course, the first report from GSA showed where it would help to put a pumping system there, levy it off, pump it out. But it's a substantial amount of money, and you have the upkeep of it. What we're looking at right now is actually at maybe providing a detention area for the water. There is a large wetlands area, swamp area through there, and it's a possibility that we can make that into a detention area, and maybe even a pond, similar to a subdivision, that we can block the backwater flow from Francois, and it's already blocked from New River, and prevent backup water from coming in, and have a detention area for any rainfall that may fall into that subdivision. Again, similar to a modern subdivision that we require now to have some type of detention. We're looking at that possibility right now to see which one is more feasible. So that's where we are on that.
Well, would you report back to us at the next drainage meeting on that, Mr. Root?
Yes, sir.
But I also would like to move forward to do whatever it takes to control that flooding problem. Thank you.
Yeah, I got any more questions?
Exactly what's your motion, Adrian?
A motion is to move forward.
I don't mind giving you an open-end check, but I want to know exactly how much the check going to be. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you talking? We talking on a resolution to favor the study of coming back with a direction from DPW?
Well,
I'll be glad to support you on a resolution to do the study, but I'm not sure I'm going to give you a blank check.
Okay, Bill, come back and let this board know what you come up with.
We need to give you alternatives.
Right.
And that's what we're preparing right now, alternatives.
And we support you on that, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you.
Motion on the second. Any objections? So moved. I got number 10, Silton of Henderson Bayou Cut, Mr. Roland Cason, but I don't see Mr. Roland here. Bill, can you give us an update? I think y'all went and looked at this project.
We have. And to tell everybody what's happening out there, this is the location of where, actually, they call it Henderson Bayou, but actually Lake Velar comes into Amite River at the floodgate. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Cason's been complaining that there's a silting end right at his location, which is the beginning of the entrance into Lake Velar, or Henderson Bayou, if you will. And so what we did was, of course, what we're looking at is making it navigable to go all the way up Lake Velar. And so we took bottom elevations from the beginning of Amite River all the way to 431 Bridge. The fact of the matter is, all of that area is silted up. So if you clean just at the area where the beginning is, you can provide access to Mr. Cason's property or his boat landing maybe, but you're still not going to improve anything going into Lake Velar. You're just going to improve that one location. If you're going to say you want to make it the whole stream, improve the whole stream, but then you have to actually dredge all the way up, at least up to 431. So the question that we have to the board is, do you want us to proceed to just improve that one spot, or and to be honest with you, it's really not feasible because we don't have that much boat traffic going up Lake Velar. If you just, it's a decision of the board where you want to go from this. It's actually going to help just that one landowner, to be honest with you.
But Bill, doesn't he have a marina there that the boats come out? Is that a problem right there?
He has a boat launch.
River?
He has a boat launch. It's a private business. So again, we need direction of the board if you want us to go in and improve that one place, or you want to put together a project to improve all of it.
And I guess a little of this is the parish's fault, or the engineering of this gate, because what happens with this gate, it's narrow, and when we get to floods, the water is rushing through there, and it's got to narrow down so the silt settles down.
Actually, the elevation, that's what we wanted to see, what was happening. Actually, the elevation shows it's pretty level all the way down, all the way to 431. In other words, all of it is at about the same level.
Past the cut.
So all of it's silting up. Now, what you have is it goes up right at that location, and it goes down at the floodgate to a lower elevation, a deeper elevation, and then it comes right past the floodgate, and it goes back up to about the same level as the entrance. So you've got that one spot that's lower. The rest of it is all silted up.
That's the line.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and offer that motion to let them study from the mouth of the Amite River all the way to the bridge at 431.
A second.
Come with a cost back.
Yeah.
Got a motion by Mr. Dempsey Lambert, second by Mr. Hillensbeck. Questions? Objections? So moved. We're going to move on to number 11. We've been talking about this for the last couple of meetings, and I got some other parishes that are doing this. For its presentations, it's a copy of the policy in your package. Would be to go to a 5-minute presentation. If you needed more, you would have to get the board's permission or vote to go any further with it. And I'm just bringing this back to the board for y'all recommendation.
I'd like to offer a motion that we go with that policy.
I got a motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Shakespeare. Any questions?
Just general discussion. And tonight's a very good example of all of that. It's not the time of the presentation that taken up all the meeting. It's all the debate that goes on after the presentation has been made. I mean, I don't care about this one way or the other, but it seems to me like if you have a presentation and it takes a certain amount of time to give that presentation, then it takes a certain amount of time. I think we should also look at something to consider the actual amount of time that we debated. Our debate on public comment period lasted so long that one gentleman who signed up to public comment had to leave. So I think we also we should spend time not limiting, because everybody who needs to speak should have a right to speak at a public hearing. But I think there are ways that we can handle debate so that we can kind of get that information out, but not in such an extended period of time. So if you want to do something like this, that's fine. I don't care. But let's look at debate too as well. Yield whoever's sitting in that chair should wield that gavel judiciously, I think.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell. Any more questions? We got a motion and a second. Any objection?
And a question.
Question.
So what you're saying, Todd, or Mr. Chairman, is you're limiting anyone sitting around this table the length of a presentation.
Exactly.
Now,
If you need more, you can bring it forth and get
No.
ask for.
I'm assuming that would also. That's also the general public. That's also the SJBs and everybody else who wants to come and make a presentation.
I asked that question because I remember SJB doing a presentation on monumentation that seemed like it lasted well over an hour.
And they can get a vote at the beginning of the meeting to extend that time.
Okay, so what you're saying is if Mr. McConnell wants to do a presentation, all he's got to do is ask for an extension to get his presentation in, and
correct.
Okay, same way if I have a presentation to do,
correct,
I can ask for the extension. Okay.
But you just gotta get the votes to make sure
you have to get the votes. It is a vote.
Well, I guess what I might have to do is break up my presentation, do something every month, to get them in,
Oh, you do that
You do
already.
that.
You already do that.
Actually, I didn't do a presentation in April. I decided it's a little hard to continue to argue drainage when you're in the middle of a drought.
Point of order. Let's move on.
No, I got the floor. He let me speak, Mr. Valentine. He let me speak. So, but I can assure you this: drainage is on a lot of people's minds right now, and we're facing hurricane season right down the road, and another hurricane season next year. So
we're aware of that. Got a motion and a second. Any objections? So moved. Number 12, executive session, Roger C. Road Bridge.
Motion to go into executive session.
And the Black Bayou bulkhead.
Todd, anyway we can do old and new business and go into executive session and then come out and the meeting.
We can if that's the wishes of the board.
You can go out of order. That's
okay.
strictly your prerogative.
All right, we can do that.
Hopefully we don't have any more business.
I'm going to go to number 13, Chairman's report. I have just one thing.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we pass on 12 and move it to the after old business.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Valentine. Second, Mr. Scheck-Snyder, to move it after executive session behind old business. That'd be number 15A. Any objections? So moved. Chairman's report is basically just an update with the FEMA buyouts. Caller gave me a call today, and she couldn't make it tonight. Everything's running good. The first lot of money is pretty much allocated to about 6 or 7 residents that's in volunteering and wanting these projects done. So the second round is going to start. It's a little bit larger amount of money. So if anybody's know if anybody's got repetitious loss, of damage, get with me or call a Cormier and get on the list that are willing to either sell their home or elevate their home.
Todd, that young lady who was here earlier said she had an inch of water in the house. Was that her first time getting water in the house? I wanted to ask, but I didn't know.
And she's gone.
She's gone. I'm
You
not
talking
sure.
the lady from Silverstone?
Miss Jones.
I understand that is her first time. She,
First time.
It has to be a Has
to be 3, I think.
3 to, yeah.
2, I think.
2.
So everything's running good with that program, and she just wanted to give us an update on it.
I'll get in touch with her.
New business. Mr. Thompson.
I got some new business. St. Elizabeth is wanting to expand their emergency room, and they're having some drainage problem right now, and they want the parish to go in and clean a lateral ditch number 2. It's a ditch off of Bayou Ball, and I just was bringing that to the board to see if we can get support to go back in and clean that ditch. I would like to offer that as a motion.
Mr. Shakespeare.
Anybody?
They got a motion.
Yeah, motion for
Got a
discussion.
second by Mrs. Fontenot.
I'd
Question,
like to make
Mr.
a
Shakespeare.
statement on that, because the people downstream from that area, all of those ditches, if you go on 44 and take a look left and right, those ditches are so clean all the way through that area, that water comes down in a hurry.
And that's part
And
of
those
Southwood.
people in Southwood subdivision, those people behind there, those people are off of Hodgson Road, and until we've been asking for 2 years from the railroad to put a bigger culvert under the train track, because essentially that's where most of that water goes. And until we finish those laterals to go all the way to our pumping system, we can't afford to have any more, because those people are just getting way too much too much water right now. And I'm all for, I mean, I want the, St. Elizabeth to get help as much as possible, but our efforts need to be from downstream on up, because we're trying to get the water across the railroad track, and all the clean ditches are higher up. And if you go on Highway 61, look to the right and look to the left of the ditches, and there's trees all over them, and they can't drain. And there's not the passage that needs to be on the railroad track, and where the trailer park there, landowner that was there, that I won't name, has covered up a major ditch there. So I just want to make sure that we study this before we open up any more ditches.
And Bill, about 2 years ago, didn't we do a major drainage
We
project in that area?
We did. It was a joint effort between us and St. Elizabeth. When they added on, I think the doctor's office is in the back, and it had to do with coming down LA 30, then going into across outfall ditch away from 30. But the way DPW considers this is as a development. And what we would like to do, and we started already, is negotiate with St. Elizabeth the same way we'll do it with any other development. And one of the things that we are adamant about is the large developments, commercial developments, need to retain the water the same as a subdivision. If there's a problem, I think we would come out better by having St. Elizabeth provide some type of drainage. I mean, Walmart did it, and other developments do it. They should be mandated to retain that water and not put as much to the bayou instead of enlarging the bayou. So this is one thing that we're negotiating, or we will negotiate with them to retain the water on their site, the same as we do with, again, Walmart and other large developments. So we are and will be in negotiations with St. Elizabeth on that.
Bill, in reference to what Mr. Shakespeare was talking about as far as the railroad track and that section of drainage, that is the lower end of that drainage system that comes all the way from St. Elizabeth. Have we contacted, or are we getting any response from the railroad company? Anything?
We have always, well, let me put it like this. Most of the time, we have a good response from a railroad company in the short term. Then when it gets down to actually doing something, for some reason, they start backing off, and we have the same problem at Seven Oaks. We're ready to proceed with a major cross drain under the tracks at Seven Oaks, and now all of a sudden they're backing up and making different requirements and want to negotiate more on us doing more. Same problem West Bank. So railroad companies are hard to deal with.
Mr. President, you need to soften up the railroad.
Been working on that for a couple hundred years in America. Mr. O'Neill, can you help us there?
I can try, but I don't know if I can just make the railroad do anything.
You just prepare a letter for us asking us to.
Resolution,
Attach a resolution to Drainage Board asking that they.
This has been a major problem for years and years. Yeah, we want to get our senators and representatives involved in this too.
We've had
all of them.
Representatives quickly there got a meeting. They came down. They met with everybody. We presented it on the East Bank, on the West Bank. And this was a year and a half, 2 years ago. And they promised they're gonna. We sent sizings for everything, and we did that last year. And they said, okay, we're gonna be coming in, and they've never been able to get them to come back.
It's my understanding, y'all, even at the federal level, we've got the same problems. Talking to members of Congress, the railroads have had a interesting relationship over the years with rights of ways and things. So it's a state, a local, and a federal problem. And again, we're not going to solve this at the local level. We're going to, and we'll talk to Congressman Baker and them again. That they're going to have to try to help us. But they just from talking to them on these kind of issues, they are having problems around the nation with this, with these railroads. So.
Those railroads are covered by interstate commerce. Federal matter.
Somebody's got to be able to get to them.
Okay.
Okay, we got a motion. Mr. Thompson, what does your motion read now?
Well, yeah.
Since,
You might want to change that again,
Motion
Mr.
is
Thompson.
that we'll
Negotiate?
Go into negotiation with Santa Elizabeth.
That's a good idea.
Got a motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mrs. Fonto. Ms. Heather, you got that motion? To go into negotiation with St. Elizabeth on a outfall ditch.
Lateral ditch number 2, that's off of Bayou Ball.
Any questions, any objections? So moved. More new business. Mr. Ellensback.
Yeah, I'd just like to report to the board that in addition to Rhonda Place and Autumn View, Abbey James Road flooding Saturday night, Black Bayou Bridge on Causey Road flooded, also went under, as it did earlier in the week. So that's twice in this 1 week that the bridge was under and impassable. Thank you.
Mr. Shakespeare.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I know we had spoken over the phone. With all of this money and everything, that is a possibility of getting for levees and flood protection and things of this sort. I think it would be prudent for us to take a look at someone to try to pursue grants from the standpoint of Drainage Board. And I know Mr. Keller is doing it for the parish and is doing a good job, and I would like to see us approach him and negotiate and see what type of task or give us some options that we could do to see what we could do to get him on board with the Drainage Board, because I don't want to miss the opportunity to get some monies that would become available for drainage improvements in the parish and levying and all that. And so I would like to see if the board would approve of administration negotiating with him for some options to get him on board, working with us, as much as possible.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Shakespeare, second by Mr. Savoy to get administration to get with Mr. Paul on negotiations for major drainage grants. Any objections? Questions? So moved. More new business. Old business. Savoy.
Yeah, I'd like to get some type of update, if there's any at all, on the latest FEMA's new flood map that's come out. What's the latest? Is there any dates that's been established as far as public hearing, or any particular meetings that any of the elected officials need to be sitting in on? I asked the department earlier this week to be prepared to update the board on this right here.
Want to handle that, Mr. Godan or Mr. Rue?
We requested a report from the floodplain administrator, and she is preparing a report right now.
When are we expecting the report to be delivered?
I thought it would be for tonight, but she was unable to complete it for tonight. So she's working on it now, and I can get a response from her tomorrow.
Do we have any feel for meetings that's going to be called by FEMA?
She is handling all of that.
So if I can be comfortable, I can go home feeling comfortable that there's not going to be any meetings that FEMA's going to hold where the stakeholders should be at the table before the next drainage meeting, so that we can get an
The
update.
floodplain administrator is following all of the procedure with the Corps, and everything is going through her from the Corps, and she is going to be responsible to relaying that information to the stakeholders and to the council at large and the drainage board.
We'll get on the agenda.
Bill?
Yes.
I guess if
Mr.
we have to have a special meeting, you know, if they're not waiting till the next month. I think there's a time frame from what I've seen on the email sent to us.
Mr. Rue, we have a council meeting next Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
She can deliver that to the full council.
That's
As
right.
soon as she gets that, it needs to be delivered to whatever meeting is next, whether it be a drainage meeting or a council meeting, to inform us of the meetings that's coming up and the places, the locations, please.
As soon as she has it, if we don't have time to put it on the agenda, I'll ask the parish president if he could put it under his report and as part of his report, if need be.
Thank you. Right.
Mr. Shackson, you have some?
Yes, I just wanted an update on progress on grubbing and cleaning of Panama and Conway. They had talked about it was getting ready to be let out for bids. Update on Panama and Conway. You said last meeting that it was getting ready to be let for bids. I just want to see a status.
It's going through the federal process. We thought it was going to be completed by now. We were in contact with them, and they're still going through the process of making the selections right now. And that is as of today.
Okay.
And I couldn't be more specific. We tried to get more information from them, but that's all they could give us right now.
Okay. Just please keep it on the agenda for next month's meeting, an update next month.
Any more old business?
Old business? I got
Yeah.
old business.
Go ahead, Ms. Fontaine.
Mr. Rue, I also got a few emails from the people that are out there by the Hibernia Bank off of 73 and Airline. They flooded Farida, and understand they had water again. Where are we with that? We've had several private meetings about getting a pump and some other things going in that direction to help them get the water out there. Where are we with that?
Well, we started the project by providing a berm behind the office buildings along the railroad track. We got that part done. The main solution to the problem is getting the right of way from the Dutton property and digging a large drainage ditch for 1,000 or 1,200 feet. We have not been able to get that right of way yet. The man is in New Orleans, and there's a lot of errors, and we're working on that. The other temporary solution, like we discussed, was to put a pump there.
Right.
And we're in the process of putting a line, about a 6 or 8 inch line, under the road so we can, with flanges, so we can hook a pump to it and pump when we get high water situation or flood situation. Unfortunately, and that's just a standby until we get the ditch dug. Right. Unfortunately, in a flash flood situation, you have no time to react. And this was mainly the solution when we know a hurricane is coming, say Rita is coming, where then we can prepare, we can get pumps out, we can set everything up. When the rain event starts, well, then we can be prepared to start pumping some of the water so we won't have a flooding situation there. That is only on an event that we can foresee and plan for. Something like, again, like we had last week and Saturday, we're not prepared for that. We can't be prepared for that. We can't react within an hour or two and get a pump, get it set up, and start pumping and providing any kind of benefit. So basically, that's where we are. We are able, and we will be able to, on an event that we see coming, to provide some relief with a pump until we get a ditch dug. But again, the ditch is down the road a little bit, and we can only provide a pump when we see an event coming.
And one other the issue in the same area, right directly behind them, is Michael LeBlanc. And, I mean, he's been fussing for 3 years now because just a normal rain keeps his customers from coming into his dentist's office. And y'all have gone out there and done an awful lot of work, but undoubtedly what's taking place is not happening. He seems to think it's cement residue in the ditches and cement residue filling in the back part of the property next to him where the water used to stay, and now it's coming up front. And one of the things that I was, concerned about, and I don't know if you can do it or if it can be done or not, but the ditches on the opposite side of 73 are bone dry. And his water, instead of coming down 73 to get out, actually has to go back and cut across and go through the people that are flooding in the little strip mall there. So is there some kind of way we could maybe reroute the water?
We're very, very cautious of that because of the fact the church and the graveyard at the end of if we route the water all the way through on that side, all the way to Highway 61, we're very concerned about the church and the graveyard. So we don't want to put a lot of water to that area.
It seems like that area is so dry.
Well, we're very, very cautious of that. Now, when we provide the main ditch on the Dutton property, and we start routing everything through that ditch, it will benefit him too. Once we get that ditch dug. So again, the Dutton ditch is the main solution to all those problems, right there.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking, I know we're going to be doing work on 73 in that area. If there's some things like this that, that can be looked into, now's the time to do it. Because if you're going to tear up to put new culverts or whatever, we've got roadway coming in.
Well, again, we'd rather, like I say, get the Dutton ditch in and take all the flow from that side of the river, the Highway 73, straight down to where it's originally going to go, ultimately going to go anyway. After it crosses 61, it goes down and crosses back again and goes to the same place. We're going to be routing it through the Dutton ditch. So we don't want
to make sure that you look at everything before we start,
Right.
We
don't want to do a project and then stop it up once we get the other project completed. That's just a waste. And
we just
and
make
again,
sure that
on
while
this,
we got progress going with the road situation, that we can address things like culverts if that's what's
Right.
needed.
And
the possibility it needs to go, even if it goes across the way there and back across to go under the airline, which is where you're trying to route the water anyway from the backside.
Again, we have the solution. We just have to, gain the right of way and put the project together and work it. And the fact of the matter is, this is an inconvenience, and it might be a cost to him, but it's not like a flooding situation, home flooding or something like this. His parking lot is flooding. So
that's Michael LeBlanc, and then you got the other guys that's one property over from them that are trying to operate their business
That's right.
also with floodwater getting into their establishments, and they're losing tenants. So that's a big deal too. So we need to move on, and I know getting right away is not that easy.
It may be an
time, but we need to push it.
It may be an expropriation that ultimately has to be done to get the project moving.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to yield. Miss Melissa Shaw wants to speak. I'll give you a couple minutes to.
I'll be quick. I want to find out how I go about establishing some way to get funding or a study to have culverts put up on Muddy Creek, especially the little part that runs across my property, because it's soaking the entire 25 acres I have. He was talking about leaving some leadway for it to naturally spill over the banks. This didn't just start happening until this year, and it's naturally spilling over the banks into my entire yard. And so I want to know if it can be encompassed in a culvert.
We would have to get engineering or Bill, if you want to comment on that. Would that be feasible, or?
I don't really understand. You're going to put culverts to
I'd
hold
like
the
to put
water, or?
Muddy Creek all in a culvert so it can't. There's no banks. I don't want any banks. And what Mr. Shakespeare said about sandbags, that works great for other people who don't have 25 acres and 30 horses to try to contain.
Well, it's a possibility, but unless you're a multimillionaire, I wouldn't suggest trying to cover Muddy Creek, because we're talking about some huge box covers.
Well, how about we just cover by me, because it's all coming downhill. Okay, well, can you tell me where Black Bayou drains into?
it drains, Black Bayou drains into Severio Canal and ultimately into
Muddy Creek.
the pumping station. That's all away from you. Has nothing to do with you.
It all comes my way. I mean,
Not
I
Black
can just tell
Bayou.
you
Not
that,
Black
that I
You're
mean,
in Muddy
I'm
Creek.
driving around and everything is clear and dry, and now I'm suddenly covered in water.
You're in Muddy Creek, flood basin that goes to Bayou Manchac.
Oh, I know where it goes. I'm just trying to figure out what's coming to me.
Every piece of land that's in the Muddy Creek Basin upstream from you.
That's the whole north part of the parish.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, well, everything has to get into Manchac at some point and down towards Highland
But
Road.
there are other routes. You got Welsh Gully, you got other routes that.
Every place
You
I
have
drove
to-
the other day was dry, but
you
me,
have
and
to
my
look
water
at the
lasted
map.
well past Sunday morning. I mean, I have pictures from 7 in the morning all the way till at night.
That's all gravity flow into Bayou Manchac.
Okay, but everything else when you drive by is moving along really fast. And my pictures, I have video to show you at the May 10th meeting, is the water just sitting at a standstill. I don't know, it's not the rain just came and it stayed. It's everything else is draining right to me and not moving. So, and I want it contained in a culvert. This was not an issue before development. This was not an issue before all the neighborhoods. I do appreciate that they're doing a good job. I think what needs to be understood is that the council, planning and zoning commission is just approving too many developments, and DPW is not big enough to maintain it. They don't have enough resources or enough manpower. Their offices aren't big enough. And all this is going through, and we've asked since 2002 for a moratorium on development or something to that, but I want the water contained. It's actually illegal to continue to add stuff to that waterway when it's at capacity. That's the law. Yet it's happening, and the only thing I can figure is to dam where the water's coming from.
Yeah, I tell you, the best thing is for us to review your particular situation.
I do want you to do that because I am exactly what the parish says they want. Rural character. It's a horse farm. But you're driving it away. So, and it's not particularly you, Mr. Rue, but just if you will come out and take a look.
Right, we have to review your situation.
Okay. Well, it's gotten worse, and I've been there since 1990, and this was not a problem until 2003.
Thank you. No more old business. We can move on to the executive session. Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Savoy.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to add, what are we going to add, Mr.?
Black Bayou bulkheads.
Okay.
Any objection? So moved. Motion by Mr. Savoy, second by Mr. Shakespeare. Any objections? So moved. Basically, we just got an update on the two projects, Roger C. Road Bridge and Black Bayou bulkhead failure. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Shakespeare, second by Mr. Thompson. Any objections? So moved.